Howdy, howdy, fellow movie watchers, and welcome back for another edition of the Wisco Movie Watchers Podcast, brought to you by PTE Creative. As always, we are your hosts, Evan Davies, and our favorite Oscars true expert, regardless of what the comment sections from the Cole Sprouse fans say. True Oscars expert, Dylan Davies, in the turtleneck today.
We'll say enthusiast, not expert.
You keep saying that. You know more than virtually any normal human being does or even should about the Oscars.
Yeah, but I'm no Martin Scorsese or anything.
Well, Martin's a different case all entirely. It's, you know,
That's true. He is a weirdo.
Oh, also Marvel films, what are they? They're not stories or they're not films? What is it? I think they're not films.
No, he said they're not cinema.
Oh yeah, they're not cinema. It's like, that's another thing.
I somewhat agree.
Well, I also just love that George Lucas, who's like friends with him, he's like, Marty, anything that's a moving picture, that's cinema. So inherently they are cinema. And I'm like, there you go, George. Thanks, bud.
I'll just say I get his point.
I understand his point. I just think it's poorly made. Because I do understand it, where it's like paint by numbers, half the sequences are already done in pre-production before the director's even hired, and you're like, yeah, I get that. That kind of sucks. But nonetheless, folks, we are here. We're going to be doing another Oscars retrospective, covering 5 years of the Oscars. We are now going to be covering films from 2004 to 2008. And if you've seen our past episodes, you will probably notice that there are going to be 2 to even 4 years that we can be pretty quiet about. And then there's going to be 1 year that we're going to be extremely opinionated about, specifically one side of the desk over here.
Just a little, I changed the format just a little bit because now I did a little bit more research about, because I was really curious about who is going into these awards really, really confident. Because I went back and looked at okay, because the major awards building up to the Oscars are the Producers Guild, the Golden Globes, the BAFTAs, the SAG Awards, and the Critics' Choice Awards.
Sure.
Those are the major ones. So I went back and looked at all the winners from each year to see okay, who had their dreams just crushed when the Oscars were announced.
I mean, I dig that. I dig that. It's kind of like what we were talking about with Adrian Brody last show of the Oscars, where you're like, no one saw that one coming.
Yeah, and then I also went and watched the video of each person winning, just to see okay, are there any people who are visibly upset when the winner is announced? Or is there audible gasps from the audience or anything? Just to see. It's curious sometimes to see the audience reception.
Were there any that were clearly pissed?
Well, we'll get to it in 2005.
Because maybe they should be watching more of that Friends episode, where he has to practice whether he wins or not.
I will say, just off the bat, the actresses are way better at hiding. They have the Oscar face down way more than the actors do.
All right, good enough. All right,
they're so much better at hiding the disappointment than the actors are.
There, I mean, shocking. Who would have thought? You know?
Yeah, I know, right?
But
even Saoirse Ronan, who's I don't know, maybe 12 years old when she's nominated in 2007, even she has it down right away.
Yeah, just come on now. All right, we're going to start in 2004 to set the scene for you. 2004, the movies that we're getting at this time, you're starting to see the real modern studio blockbuster kind of take over. Not that didn't already happen, but you're going to see a lot of, hey, we're just going to throw out a bunch of blockbuster shit at you and hope it sticks.
Yeah.
However, you still see some auteur films and things of that nature. Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind. Then you have things that are that mix, like Kill Bill Volume 2. We're getting a lot of good comedies during this time. Anchorman, Shaun of the Dead. Team America World Police is part of this year. Napoleon Dynamite, to really set the scene for our generation. Napoleon Dynamite comes out in 2004.
Ah, yes.
Mean Girls. So you're getting these really cool, almost concept comedies, more so than you're getting, much like we talked about in our Ghostbusters episodes, more concept comedy than just, hey, let's just put stupid situations out there and it happens. But then you're also seeing, again, during this year, you have Kill Bill Volume 2 franchise, technically. Spider-Man 2, Saw starts this year, Shrek comes out with its second film, and then even new stuff that isn't technically a franchise yet, but clearly is going for that. National Treasure, SpongeBob SquarePants movie, their Born Supremacy is another sequel coming out. So this is clearly we're making franchises. So it's a very interesting thing to see.
On that SpongeBob note, I have a note on that on the Oscars, actually.
Interesting.
From this book. I didn't actually write it down because I didn't think it would come up. But so it says Robin Williams took the stage with his mouth taped shut to protest fundamental zealots who accused SpongeBob of promoting the homosexual agenda. But most of it was cut out because that was after the whole halftime show debacle. So a lot of it was cut out of the show.
Huh.
But yeah, so he was protesting against people who said that SpongeBob was promoting the gay agenda.
Just to make it clear, because even the way you said it, I understand every word you said, and I'm still like, wait, hold on, let's process quick. Robin Williams is protesting douchebags who are against SpongeBob because they think SpongeBob is gay and pushing the gay agenda. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right, more reason to like Robin Williams.
Yeah, Robin Williams is not saying SpongeBob is gay and he's pushing the agenda. Yeah, no.
That's not what he is saying.
He's protesting against that, yeah.
Wonderful. But that is the year.
I definitely did not think that was going to come up.
Yeah, it was more so I just knew that was oddly... Oh, I forgot one movie that is certainly another cultural touchstone of the time. Not necessarily for a good thing inherently, but in some people's opinion, a very good thing. That is The Passion of the Christ, is also released in 2004, which is one of the biggest movies of the year. So, and it's through an independent distributor as well. So
yeah, I believe it was still in the top 10 of highest grossing R-rated movies ever.
Interesting. I mean, that would make sense, but I mean, to be fair,
probably not anymore, but it was for a long, long time.
I was gonna say it doesn't help that there are 3 Deadpool movies in that category now. So I guarantee.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So we're getting more of that, and Logan's in the R-rated category. So we're starting to see the big franchise superhero film take that genre.
Oh, I forgot about that.
But but it doesn't mean it's not inherently doesn't take away from the success of that film. That film was wildly controversial through. I mean, talk about presenting agenda. You know, if we're going to talk about agendas, this is the turn of This is the turn of Mel Gibson in popular culture, where he was already starting to get a little bit of flack, but this is where he's like, he's all out. I am a Christian, almost zealot, and I am going to really bring to you the suffering of Christ and try to make everyone feel bad that Christ suffered this way. And it goes away from a picture of faith almost to I'm going to try to shove my faith down your throat almost in some way, shape, or form, because it's wildly popular, obviously, with one major group of people for obvious reasons.
Well, I think it's funny that like any like almost true depiction of what's actually in the Bible, like obviously there's like really graphic stuff in the Bible.
Yeah.
And if you actually show that as it is, like they did in that movie, or with Martin Scorsese had a whole controversy about The Last Temptation of Christ as well.
Yeah.
Like there's always this big uproar about it for some reason.
Right.
And it's just curious.
And in most ways, the best thing to come out of Passion of the Christ is the South Park episode about Passion of the Christ. So, like most things in
I don't know if I've seen that
one. Oh, it's tremendous. Hartman is holding essentially Nazi rallies because of his passion for the Passion of the Christ, and he's telling all the South Park townsfolk that like Nazi chants are what is it, Judaic or Aramaic, whatever language that was used in the film, saying like, oh no, it's a chant from this time, and everyone's like, oh really? So they're like marching the streets to these chants that they're like, oh, we're celebrating Christ, and it's Cartman trying to like take over the town essentially.
That sounds about right.
It's tremendous because it's done with that South Park fuck you attitude that is so good in every way, shape, or form that you have to love.
Yeah, that's good.
I fucking love that episode so.
All right. So to get into it, the actual nominees for Best Picture, you have the winner is $1 Million Baby. The other 4 nominees: The Aviator, Finding Neverland, Ray, and Sideways. Director, Clint Eastwood for $1 Million Baby. Actor, Jamie Foxx for Ray. Actress, Hilary Swank for $1 Million Baby. Supporting actor, Morgan Freeman for $1 Million Baby. And supporting actress, Cate Blanchett for The Aviator.
All right, so do we want to start with Big Six and then go kind of other categories, or do we want to go other categories into Big Six?
We'll do any technical changes you want to make?
So technical changes, just inherently, I would say this. I only have 2 technical changes. I don't understand the Polar Express not getting a nomination. I understand if it doesn't win, but I think the Polar Express is just such a weird, unique form of animation that's done very well. This also came out in 2004, that I think that
just for animated feature?
Yeah, just for an animated film, I think that probably deserves a nomination. And I think this is the first time that this franchise is shown to be a little bit more gritty. I could see a nomination for adapted screenplay for Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I think that's the first time you really get to see not Rowling and the way she writes those books. They're meant to evolve with the audience, which is the whole beauty of that book series, regardless of the human being behind them. But Prisoner of Azkaban is that turn where you still have all that wonderful young magic to it, but you're just starting to get more of those adult themes. I think the movie really hits that well, and you're starting to see that. And I could see a nomination for adapted screenplay. I'm not sure if it deserves a win, but a nomination I think could be worthwhile.
Hey, I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Wow, the Harry Potter fan? No way.
Yeah. Steve Kloves, I don't think gets enough credit for what he does with those movies in terms of screenplay. Because honestly, a lot of those movies are at times radically different than the books.
Yeah.
And Prisoner of Azkaban actually is pretty different. Well, it's actually pretty different in terms of plotting, though.
True.
Like, in terms of, like, the storyline and where it goes, it's true to it.
Yeah.
But, like, the actual way it gets there is very different.
Yeah.
At times. Yeah, both my technical changes also have to do with Prisoner of Azkaban.
Shocking.
I would have went the Prisoner of Azkaban score, John Williams, over the Finding Neverland score.
Huh?
I just rewatched Prisoner of Azkaban on Halloween.
Okay, good time.
And that's actually my favorite score of all the Harry Potter movies. I think it's by far the most creative from all of them. And then I also wish it would have gotten a nomination for cinematography.
It does have some really cool cinematography in it. That's right, it does.
Yeah, like the camera work in that with Alfonso Cuarón is just like so creative and fun and like energetic.
Yeah, I will say it's another.
And then when you compare it to the first 2 movies with
Christopher Columbus, or Chris Columbus, I should say.
Yeah, thank you. yeah, when you compare those two, it's like so radically different.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's part of the reason why when Prisoner of Azkaban comes out, a lot of people, they don't turn on the franchise, but a lot of the older folk that go see the first two movies with their families, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, what a fun family experience." Not understanding the trajectory of books and everything. The third one, it's radically different. They're getting to see,
Yeah.
you're seeing teenagers come out to play, and you're seeing the cinematography really honing in on some of the darker themes in that story. And you're right. It's a great example of bringing energy through cinematography. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I kind of forgot how good that movie fucking was. It's so good.
I would say it's still, I think it's probably my second favorite of the franchise. But it's still, it's by far one of the two best in my opinion. I think the best is actually Deathly Hallows Part 1. I know it's controversial to some people.
Whoa.
Yep.
That is highly controversial.
Oh, I know. But that's why I like it so much. That's why I think it's great, because it's just, it's the first time, even with all the crazy dark shit that happens in those books and those movies, it's the first time you really feel the struggle. You really feel the, goddamn, life can really suck with this right now. And I love that. I think that's great.
They no longer feel like kids, yeah.
Yeah, they feel like they are now thrown into this war that they never wanted. I adore that piece of, I think Deathly Hallows Part 1 is by far the best. And then I would say it's Prisoner of Azkaban. But I know that's a wild, controversial take, so.
So, jumping into the acting categories, just to go off the guild, the wins before the Oscars.
Sure.
Jamie Foxx swept everything. Critics, BAFTAs, Golden Globes, and SAG. Got every single win he could. Hilary Swank won everything except the BAFTA. The supporting actress and supporting actor races were actually up for grabs because it was really a three-way chase in both categories. It was Thomas Hayden Church won a Critics' Choice Award. Clive Owen won a BAFTA and a Golden Globe. And then you had Morgan Freeman winning the SAG Award.
What did Clive Owen win for? Is that Children of Men?
No, it was Closer.
Okay.
That him and Natalie Portman and I can't remember who else was in that.
I always liked Clive Owen.
I don't know. I don't think I've seen that movie, honestly.
Yeah, I've never seen that movie. I like Clive Owen and what I've seen him in. It's just I've seen him in very few things.
Yeah, I think I've only seen him in Children of Men.
I was gonna say,
which I love.
I loved talk about a movie for the times. Shoot 'Em Up, 2006. Loved that movie at the time because it was just wild and ridiculous, and I fucking loved that. Which is also why I love Monica Bellucci. So when everyone fell in love with her in Beetlejuice, I was like, I've been in love with her for 20 years. Shut up! Like, she's great.
And then supporting actress race, you had Virginia Madsen winning the Critics' Choice Award. You had Natalie Portman winning a Golden Globe, and then Cate Blanchett winning the SAG and BAFTA award. So both categories completely up for grabs, really.
I like it when it's that varied, unless it's just such a.
So do I.
Unless it is such a straightforward, no one else can win this because no one else should win this. I don't ever like it when it's just, chalk. You know, it's just, it makes it far more interesting. I think it brings not inherently credibility, but I think it brings more discussion to the criticism of films in both good and bad ways. And I think it really brings to light that there's, when you do find something extremely good, that doesn't inherently mean it's better than everything else, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I think it lends more credence to the Oscars
Yes.
Because it's just like, okay, it's not a stapled on thing of like, okay, it's obvious this person's going to win. Because like there's always that thing like, if Meryl Streep's nominated, she's probably gonna win.
Right.
But like, it's not always that easy, and that's a good thing.
Right. I mean, it's similar to, we have one of those obvious no one else can win at the end of the show. It's just
true.
So,
well, we just had one with Jamie Foxx, really,
right?
Because he won literally every single award.
Right. So the only things I would,
it's like it'd be a huge upset if he didn't win.
Right. I have one adjustment for nomination. I don't know who I would take out because I think Ray is the only one the nominees that you've said, I think Ray's the only one I even know most of the performance of. I would have liked to see a nomination for Jim Carrey in Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind. I think he's phenomenal in
that. That's one nomination I also had down. I actually had two changes I would have made. You've never seen The Aviator?
I've seen bits and pieces of the Aviator, but it's not. That was during that time where it just felt like Leo DiCaprio just kind of did whatever Martin Scorsese was doing, and it wasn't my.
Yeah, pretty much.
It wasn't. I wasn't in that wheelhouse. I definitely did find this. It's something to really showcase one's bias in film and to try to get over that as much as possible. It is amazing to me, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even before that, if someone says this is a great award-winning film, I'm like super open to it because it's before my time and I don't know. This was the first time when we were writing when I was writing the lists and doing the, year of kind of stuff to prepare, that I was like, oh wow, I really don't have an interest in any of watching most of these movies. And it's because I lived through them. And so it was like,
sure.
And this was when I was first starting to get into like, oh, I'd like to go, like what 13-year-old says for Christmas, I'd like to go buy the Godfather box set. Like that's who I was. So I was starting to get into film in that way. But a lot of these Oscar movies, I was just like, who fucking cares? And now I have to like challenge myself to be like, I haven't watched a lot of this stuff. I don't want to give opinions on stuff that I haven't.
Yeah, I've been meaning to rewatch The Aviator lately because I just watched a interview between Leo and Scorsese where they talk about it. So I think I'm gonna watch it in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
But I remember really liking it. Cate Blanchett actually is the first person to win an Oscar for portraying an Oscar winner because she's playing Katharine Hepburn in it.
Fun. I mean, Cate Blanchett's great in everything, so I assume.
Yes. It's a fun performance. I do remember that. Yeah, but that's actually one of the changes I made. I would have picked Regina King, who wasn't even nominated, for Ray. I love Ray more than most people, I think.
Yes, that's very true. You love that since it came out.
Because it's actually going to be replaced in the Best Picture category later. But so I would have picked her, and then the other change I would have made was Best Director. I would have went Scorsese over Clint Eastwood. Just because I just don't love $1 Million Baby that much.
I think it's
fairly mediocre.
Clint Eastwood, ironically, is kind of the director Meryl Streep. It seems to me, if Clint Eastwood directs a movie, it's going to get nominated no matter what, even if it deserves to or not. And then he's most likely going to get the push to win because it's Clint Eastwood. But what about the movie? Well, it's Clint Eastwood. It's almost like whereas there's multiple times looking through this that like Spielberg gets nominated and Spielberg doesn't win. And you would think it'd be the opposite. Well, Spielberg has to win, and it's not the case.
Yeah. Just on that, when they actually announce the videos that I watch, when Morgan Freeman gets announced, obviously, huge cheer, because it's his first Oscar that he ever won.
Yeah.
So everyone's like going crazy. Everyone gives him a standing ovation. He has to wait to speak because everyone's cheering so much. Alan Alda, he kind of looks like he believes he could win, but then even he's like, okay, yeah, it's Morgan Freeman. I get it.
Yeah.
And
which I was surprised to see he even got a nomination because I just forgot Alan Alda did stuff during this time.
He's not really in many movies.
Yeah.
Supporting actress I wrote down. That's a hard one to read because literally no one looked confident in the video.
Which is good. That's a good thing.
Yeah. And then no one actually seems over the moon about Cate Blanchett winning. And I wrote, even Cate Blanchett doesn't look like incredibly happy about winning.
Would you say that's really a strong category, or would you say it's a weak category? Where it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, they had to. It's category, or it's like, no, it's really strong performances. It's just no one really outshines any of it.
I need to look at the other two. Okay, because I haven't seen Closer, and I haven't seen Laura Linney is nominated for Kinsey, which I also haven't seen.
Okay.
I really like Virginia Madsen in Sideways. I think that's a great performance. And then the other nominee is, I don't know who this is actually, Sophie Okoneita from Hotel Rwanda, which I do remember really liking that movie.
Oh, film.
But I don't remember her performance.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a pretty good category, but what I wrote down is like Cate Blanchett is just incredibly composed. So it's like it's just her as a person.
Because she's our beloved Lady Galadriel, and we love her.
Yeah, and then Best Actress. That's when I wrote down like, okay, the girls are just better at the Oscar face than the guys are. Also, I wrote down that this weird thing that I noticed. Hilary Swank had this weird mirror with Jodie Foster. Because Jodie Foster wins 2 Oscars in 3 or 4 years. She wins in '88 for The Accused, where she plays a survivor of rape. And then 3 years later, she plays, I'm blanking on her name, in
Clarice.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, it's Clarice Starling, FBI agent.
Yeah, Starling, thank you. And then Hilary Swank wins in '99, where she plays a trans character who, well, actually, I think it's based on a true story. It's like a really tragic story of a trans person. And then 5 years later, she wins for like a strong female character who's a boxer. And she's actually the first person to win an Oscar for playing a boxer, male or female.
That's fun.
So it's like this weird, like, justice. It's this weird, like, mirror of in decades where, like, you have 2 people who I'd actually would compare, like Jodie Foster and Hilary Swank, because they're like not the most conventional of actresses, you would say.
They also just disappear for large parts of their careers.
True.
Where they just, and then like 5 to 10 years later, they just pop up in something, and everyone's like, "Hey, you remember that they're good?" You just like you forget about it because they just kind of like. I remember finding out about Silence of the Lambs and loving it the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
And just being like, why doesn't Jodie Foster do stuff? She just like didn't do stuff during that part of her career. And then I don't think I even saw her, not even in a movie, around movies until like the early 10s. And I was just like, where have you been? What are you doing? Like,
yeah. It is crazy.
And Hilary Swank has a similar thing, because didn't she just kind of like make a pseudo comeback like a couple years ago, but she like disappeared almost for years? It's just strange.
Just making sure. Oh, well, actually, I guess, no, Robert De Niro did win for Raging Bull, which part of that movie is a boxing movie, so I guess partial win.
Partial win. Well, also...
But it's not it's not like a full-blown boxing movie.
But to illustrate the point, I mean, it's sad, but Hilary Swank's biggest thing in pop culture for over a decade is the debate about if she's attractive or not in The Office. That's wild. because she's a 2-time Academy Award winner, and she's a phenomenal actress.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
But it's one of the biggest things from the early Office, where there's a whole debate: is she hot or not? And it's just like an office-wide debate, and they just get in like in typical Office fashion from the U.S. Office. Just not that it's different from the UK, but nonetheless, the whole office just stops working, and they just divide into teams and yell at each other. Hilary Swank, is she hot or not? And they just keep going, and then it ends with Michael Scott. He's been doing his own storyline the whole day. He just walks in the office like it's a dead tie, and then Hilary Swank, he just walks by. Oh, she's hot, and then just like walks away, and everyone's just like, whatever team you're on, cheers or boos. But sadly, that's her biggest claim to fame for like a decade because of the prominence of that show.
Yeah, that's a shame because she, like, I don't love $1 Million Baby, but I just recently watched Boys Don't Cry, which she won her first Oscar for.
Yeah.
Probably like 3 months ago. And that movie, like, it was devastating, her performance in that. It is really, really tragic. And it's like, I would argue it's like one of the best performances of the decade. So it is kind of a shame. And I don't love Hilary Swank that much. So that's saying something.
Yeah, I would say it says a lot when someone can give a performance like that. It's just weird. I'm so glad you brought up the mirror, because like the two of them, it's the exact same thing. They just like disappear for giant swaths of time. And then someone's like, no, look at this one movie that they did during the time. You're like, shut up. It doesn't count. Like, I know Jodie Foster did some rando thing like in the like 2014 era, but she's like, it's the first thing she does in like a long time out of nowhere, and you're just like,
I know she just did that True Detective season, which I didn't watch yet, but that's the only thing I can think of in the past 5 years.
Well, I know she's been more into the director and producer roles later in her career, because it's not as if Jodie Foster didn't have a full fucking career by the time she was in her 30s. Like, she had a full career, but nonetheless, it was just wild when you brought it up. I was like, fuck yeah, that's right. It's just strange, the mirroring and everything, that they're very similar paths. It's very interesting, to say the least.
And then Best Actor, Clint Eastwood looks visibly pissed off when Jamie Foxx gets announced. It's really funny because he looks like he's like, you young motherfucker, this was like my last chance at winning an acting award, because he had already won for directing and Best Picture in '92 for Unforgiven. So he's like, this was my last chance, you asshole.
Yeah, and then he has Gran Torino, so
yeah.
Does he win for Gran Torino? Course, I don't know if he does, but
no, he's not even nominated. But then, of course, the Oscar producers have to cut immediately to black people to show how diverse they are when Jamie Foxx wins. It's just like, come on. It is so obvious what you're doing. I hate that shit.
Just, I mean, part of it is the recognition of your peers, right? Instead of trying to prop up yourself, prop up the industry, prop up the person winning, prop up the people who deserve it. And not that the people that they showed don't deserve it. It's they're trying to get the goodwill, not those people. You know, like, does that make sense? Yeah. And that's certainly something. Yeah, it's obnoxious when that happens. Oscar, yeah, Clint Eastwood,
and then
it feels like Clint Eastwood feels like he just wins. He should win everything he does, because that's kind of Clint Eastwood's vibe for the later parts of his career.
Yeah. Well, I will say, like, the thing I wrote down about when he wins Best Director this year, I have 2 tidbits. He brought his mom to the Oscars in '92, and she's 84 years old then. And he brought his mom again in '04, and she's 94. So that's kind of cool.
Good on
him. As a date. And then the other thing I wrote down is a surprisingly charismatic person. So he, like, I always think of him as like the character he always plays, you know?
Yeah.
But he is different than that. He is surprisingly charismatic.
I mean, there's a reason that he is who he is. It's because most of the time when you talk about Clint Eastwood, no one brings up like one role, right? He's kind of the last vestige of like the John Wayne, where Clint Eastwood plays Clint Eastwood.
Well, that's what people always say. But then, like when you actually see him in interviews or giving that speech, I was like, oh, he's not actually like that.
Oh yeah, I know, but he's just like that was the persona that was built. He's one of those.
Yes, the persona, yeah.
That was one. I mean, shit. To the point where the fucking canyon in Back to the Future 3 is named after him because, like, well, Clint Eastwood. Western. Let's talk about Clint Eastwood. It's who's Marty? He's Clint Eastwood. Because it's all he fucking knows. It's the persona that was built for. That he would consciously built for himself, and the studio system, specifically Warner Brothers, really fucking built for Clint Eastwood. But yeah, I mean, I think he's certainly super talented. I don't want this to come off as though Clint Eastwood sucks or anything. It's just certainly it seems the vibe that there is a lot of his more recent work in the last 15 to 20 years. It feels very much like, motherfucker, I'm Clint Eastwood and I made this. Ergo, it's great because I did it, not because of the merit of what it actually is.
It's been a lot, and it's been very mediocre work, honestly. Because, like, you have, like, Hereafter with Matt Damon, you have J. Edgar. Like, those are not good films,
right?
Honestly. They're, like, eh.
Well, and that's the thing is he does a lot of movies that some consider to even be like propaganda films half the time. And all due respect, because it's a good movie, regardless of what people want to say. I don't love the subject character, and I don't love kind of the messaging behind it. But American Sniper is a good fucking movie.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that movie.
Straight up. But it feels very much like, hey, support America's military men. And, we need to appreciate them more. And it's a little more of like, horror. He always does like horror of war shit. And it's just eventually you're just like, okay.
Well, his last great film was Letters from Iwo Jima, which was, at this point, 17 years ago. So, I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah, that's the thing. Great film. Like, I think Gran Torino is really good. But it's not the greatest thing I've ever found.
Yeah. So, jumping into picture, do you have any changes?
I would have liked to see 2 nominations. I don't know who I take out, though. Because I only know the conjecture of some people at the time. Meaning, the adults I was around.
Which ones have you seen?
Go over the nominees again.
$1 Million Baby.
Nope.
The Aviator.
Nope.
Finding Neverland.
Nope.
Ray. And Sideways.
I've seen most of Ray. I can't even say I've seen a full rendition of any film. Sideways specifically just looks like, okay. I don't know if I'd like it or not. I'm telling
you right now, you would love Sideways.
Which is so interesting because the way it's marketed, I'm just like, I'm not interested.
And I'm not saying you would like it. I'm saying you would probably love it.
Huh. Maybe one day we'll have to check.
It's great. I think Abby would love it too.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll have to make a little movie night out of it. The 2 that I love from this year that I think are Oscar-worthy nominations, I would have liked to see a nomination for Eternal Sunshine. I think that's a tremendous film. And
one I have down, yep.
And I do think Life Aquatic is worthy of that distinction. I think Life Aquatic is phenomenal.
I haven't seen that in a long, long time, so I can't say I think I watched that when I was like 15 too, so I barely remember that movie.
Life Aquatic is one of those that Life Aquatic is so weird and unique, interesting, and different. And that's not that his other films aren't great, because I enjoy them, but that's the turn where Wes Anderson goes from, hey, I'm Wes Anderson, I make these quirky films, to, hey, I'm Wes Anderson, I make these quirky films, and they're really good and worthy of your fucking merit at all times from a critical sense, not just, hey, the people who are going to like them are going to like them, the people who don't, okay.
Yeah, so I wrote down 2 changes I would have made. One was Eternal Sunshine. I would have taken out Finding Neverland, and I would have taken out Ray. I think Ray is a good movie, but I think it's mostly just built off the performance of Jamie Foxx, really. It's mostly about that performance.
Okay.
So I would have put in Eternal Sunshine, and then I would have put in. Have you ever seen Downfall? It's a German movie about Hitler in the bunker in the last, like, 2 weeks of the war.
I'm sure I've seen clips of it, because isn't the clip from that movie like pretty prevalent in a bunch of stuff?
Yes, the famous movie where he's like screaming. Yeah.
Yeah, like everyone knows clips of that movie, but I don't think anyone's actually.
Yes.
I wouldn't say 99% of the people have watched that movie. They've just watched a rendition of it for meme culture of that clip.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Actually, that's one thing I forgot to shout out is Bruno Ganz, who plays Hitler in that movie. That's a great performance and probably should have been nominated, but very rarely do foreign films get nominated for performances.
Also, they just had some controversy with some Nazis a couple years ago. Probably just like,
yeah,
that's just not. It's just not.
I mean, that's a pretty nuanced performance, so I would have been okay with it.
Nonetheless.
Also, I forgot to give a shout out for one performance that I would have liked to get seen just as a nomination. It's going to be kind of a joke, but Ben Stiller in Dodgeball. Comedies just never get recognized, so it's like
Ben Stiller's great in Dodgeball. Nice. I do love Dodgeball.
Yeah, he is. There are performances where you can say like, okay, yeah, that would have been cool to see.
Yeah, it would have been fun, and I think he gives a great performance. But you're right, nothing in a comedy movie is ever going to be
ever.
It has to be a dramedy to ever get a performance recognition.
Yes. Like the only we'll talk about one later with Robert Downey Jr., but
yeah,
that's as close as you get, really.
Right, exactly. But I mean, overall, I think that's pretty good.
What's your favorite movie of the year?
Oh, you already know it. Dodgeball was a very, very close competitor, but we're talking about one of my favorite comedies of all time. We're talking about Anchorman: Legend of Ron Burgundy. Come on now. That newscaster fight?
Actually, you know what? Will Ferrell may be nominated too. Best actor, maybe. You could argue.
Obviously, the best actor of that year, ironically enough, John Heder is Napoleon Dynamite. Could see it.
That would have been cool.
If I'm giving you a joke answer,
I don't think that movie caught on until like 2 years after.
No, it was most popular in our age group a year after it came out. Because I remember I had the vote for Pedro's shirt in the 8th grade, and that was 2005 to 2006 for me. And that's one of those movies that is now. It should be known almost as a cult movie, but it's not, because our entire generation knows it and has an opinion of it, and most are just like, they're like, it's not that great. I fucking love Napoleon Dynamite.
Something tells me the Academy voters that nominated Finding Neverland didn't watch Napoleon Dynamite.
Also, I think we should give an acting nomination to the clearly stuffed dog that Jack Black kicks off the bridge in Anchorman.
Yeah. Maybe they should add a best cameo category.
I'm going to be honest. That'd be really fun. That'd be really, really fun. If there's a cameo.
They would never do it because it's like too much of a shtick, but it would be cool.
Oh, especially, come on now. Some of these cameos coming out now, where you're just like, no fucking way. It's fun and it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
But yeah, what is your favorite film?
Oh, it's Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I assumed other high contention here, for the year specifically. Shaun of the Dead. I can always fuck with Shaun of the Dead. I do really like Life Aquatic. Dodgeball is certainly in that discussion. And then I only watched it for the first time on Halloween just a couple days ago as of recording this. Howl's Moving Castle, which doesn't get recognized by the Oscars till the next year because it's only released by Disney again. It's fucking Spirited Away too, where they don't recognize it in the correct year. But Howl's Moving Castle, I really enjoyed Howl's Moving Castle. And there's a phenomenal voice cast that I was not expecting.
They have a weird... Yeah, they have all their Miyazaki movies. Spirited Away and Howl's Moving. Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense because there's other foreign films that do the same fucking thing.
But maybe Disney's being strategic about it. Maybe that's their...
It's the only strategy I can think of, because why wouldn't we give some extra credit to the biggest fucking film studio on the planet?
I'm just trying to think of, maybe they don't want to compete against themselves, you know?
Which would be stupid, but I would love if one year a studio just made like 5 movies that were great, and they just said, this is our category. Have at it.
Can't even find animated movie. Where is it? I mean, The Incredibles won that 2004, so maybe that was their thinking. Maybe.
I mean, Incredibles is a phenomenal movie. I don't know what I would pick.
I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised you didn't put that in Best Picture, honestly.
It is odd how much Incredibles flies under the radar for me and most people. Incredible, so for instance, I talked about this with you, and I showed a bit to you when I just saw you a couple weeks ago in person, where the Survival series, for Parts of Unknown, and I can't remember the rest of their channels, but I love that YouTube series. And everybody who talks about it, you had to name every Pixar movie. Like, okay.
Yep.
Even then, with people that are movie critics and go to press screenings, all this shit, even they're like, oh fuck, I forgot The Incredibles. And it is so crazy how much that movie flies under the radar, and yet it is such a good...
It's funny, I don't think I love it as much as everyone else. I do really like it, but
I would be in the same boat.
I wouldn't put it in my top 5 of Pixar.
I'd have to look at the rest of Pixar, but there's a lot of modern Pixar that I really love, because I'm all for the woke culture Pixar that the incels like to hate on. I think it's great what they're doing, because oh my god, whoa, a white boy isn't their character, or a toy isn't their main character. Whoa, crazy. But nonetheless, this has been a good year for 2004 is a pretty decent year. I'm excited to see what your opinions are overall. I'm excited to see what your opinions are for the next year when we come back for 2005. And we're back for 2005 in this retrospective. Had to take a quick interlude there for another project. However, 2005, let's set the scene. We have the theoretical end of Star Wars being released in 2005. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Should have been an...
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think the sequels are a great idea. I just think the sequel trilogy was executed so poorly. But that's a whole nother episode that we will get into, because trust me, we have plenty of Star Wars coming your way. But Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, War of the Worlds, Chronicles of Narnia. Hey, are we seeing a trend with some franchise films here coming out?
Yeah.
I mean, Chronicles of Narnia, also known as hey, Harry Potter's real hot. Lord of the Rings just got done and it was epic. We need our own fantasy franchise based off a book here.
Yeah, I was about to say. Everyone looking for their own Harry Potter.
And don't you worry, because the next year we'll talk about another one too. But then you also have the beginning of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy with Batman Begins. We're getting even more comic book stuff with the Fantastic Four being released. Plus, you're having some pretty cultural touchstone comedies such as The 40-Year-Old Virgin being released as is Wedding Crashers in 2005. So that's kind of the year of film as is. I don't have a ton of changes to Oscars, but let's hear our nominees and go from there.
Okay, so Best Picture actual nominees. The winner is Crash. Insert eye roll. Brokeback Mountain, Capote, Good Night and Good Luck, and Munich. Best Director is Ang Lee for Brokeback Mountain. Actor, Philip Seymour Hoffman for Capote. Actress, Reese Witherspoon for Walk the Line. Supporting actor, George Clooney for Syriana. And supporting actress, Rachel Weisz for The Constant Gardener.
This feels like a real stereotypical Oscars year, where people don't agree and don't like it.
I would say is one of the most underwhelming years of all Oscar years. And I don't just mean that in terms of like the winners, I mean that in terms of all the movies.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty fair. Now, technical categories, other things. Give me the winner for art direction.
Art direction, Memoirs of a Geisha.
I think that's very worthy of that. I would have liked to seen a nomination for Batman Begins. I think the art direction of Batman Begins really sets that tone pretty well and balances a lot of weird stuff that you wouldn't think is very Batman-esque, crime thriller-esque. Like, it's got all these different elements, and the art direction really unifies that really well. So I could see that as a nomination, but I think Memoirs of a Geisha, even seeing 2 minutes of Memoirs of a Geisha, you're like, yeah, art direction's pretty solid there.
Yeah, that's like the best part of that movie is the overall look of it.
Yeah. Well, hey, Michelle Yeoh's in that movie, so calm down. Michelle Yeoh's probably the best.
I only watched it the one time that I had to just to knock it off the list of Oscar.
But I will say this. Never seen it. I just watched the trailer to make sure, in a couple scenes, to make sure I saw the overall art direction. And I just saw Michelle Yeoh, and I just went, well, that's the best part of that movie. Because, I love Michelle Yeoh. So, visual effects. What is the winner for visual effects?
Visual effects. We got King Kong.
I don't understand. I can understand the win for King Kong. King Kong looks pretty impressive in that movie, even though the movie's not great.
Yeah.
How is Revenge of the Sith not nominated for visual effects?
Well, there's only 3 nominees in that category, so that explains that a little bit. Yeah, which never makes sense to me. The other nominees are War of the Worlds and Chronicles of Narnia. I also had written down one of mine was a nomination for Goblet of Fire. So if there was 5 nominations, that covers it right there.
I don't understand why it's only a 3 nominee. Makes no sense to me. But I know I've come off as quite the Star Wars apologist in previous episodes. The prequel trilogy does not deserve acting awards or directing awards in any way, shape, or form. But no one can argue the visual effects of those films.
Yeah.
They look utterly gorgeous.
Yeah, especially Revenge of the Sith has some of the best visual effects of the prequels. There's a lot of great breakdowns on YouTube that you can watch of it. I'm not sure why they do the 3 over the 5. Never makes sense to me. When you can do 5, why not just do it?
It just seems arbitrary. Again, it seems like the arbitrary...
It is completely arbitrary.
It seems like the arbitrary bullshit. An animated film, Wallace and Gromit wins. I admittedly have never seen that Wallace and Gromit. Of all the clips of Wallace and Gromit, I've never been wowed. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, me either.
However, after just watching it, how in the fuck does Howl's Moving Castle not win? That is legitimately one of the most beautiful films I've ever watched. Just visually, beautiful.
Miyazaki has this weird thing where, like, he almost always gets nominated, but, like, very rarely does he get enough steam to actually get the win. Spirited Away was, like...
You saying he doesn't politic his way into a win like fucking Miramax every 12 seconds to their movies?
No, but like, Spirited Away was like, unquestionably going to win because it's like a masterpiece, and everyone knew it's a masterpiece. And then last year, The Boy and the Heron won, which was actually kind of a surprise because I was thinking it was going to be Spider-Verse,
sure,
the sequel. So I think that was only his second win. He always gets nominated, but I think that was only his second win. So
fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, the other nominee in that category is Corpse Bride,
which is awesome. I think that, well, too, the visual style of Corpse Bride is super unique and interesting.
Oh, I'd agree with that, sure.
And I think it actually is quite a solid film. So I fucking love that movie. It's great. So I do have another one.
I wasn't crazy about it.
Original score. Not only do I... Could you please go over the nominees here, friend?
Yep. So Brokeback Mountain wins. The other nominees are The Constant Gardener, Memoirs of a Geisha, Munich, and Pride and Prejudice. So you've double nominations for John Williams there for Munich and Memoirs of a Geisha.
Never going to fight a John Williams nomination. Never my problem. John Williams is the greatest of all time. All hail. How in the flying fuck is Batman Begins not nominated in that category for an original score?
I'm going to say I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay.
Only because, well, okay. I actually really like The Constant Gardener as a movie, but I couldn't tell you anything about the score. But I would 100% every single day of the year tell you that Pride and Prejudice is one of the best scores of this century.
Like, really?
Unquestionably, I think it's one of the best scores. It's amazing.
Oh. Interesting.
Also, it's going to be a running theme here. You'll see.
I just don't understand how Vespertilio, which is the actual name of the score to Batman Begins, like the main one that everyone knows from Batman Begins, how in the fuck is that at least not nominated? Come on. Let's not.
Is it still Hans Zimmer?
It's James Newton Howard and Hans Zimmer, where it flips in The Dark Knight.
Okay.
The Dark Knight, Hans Zimmer is far more of the forward presence of it, not James Newton Howard. Which, trust me, we'll be talking about this again in a couple of years. So,
yeah. Was that your last technical?
Last technical. I have no beef with any of the other categories because, frankly, I don't know any of the other categories, and I knew you could talk about Crash. So.
Yeah. So, okay. First off, I gotta say, Crash is. I mean, it's been said. It's like literally one of the worst Oscar winners. Like any list you'll see that ranks Oscar winners, Crash is going to be in the bottom 10. No matter what. Any list. Usually it's in the bottom 5. Sometimes it's the very bottom. I would put it in, right around bottom 5, bottom 7. It's just so, like, ham-headed and, it's obvious, really, is the word I'd say for it. It's just, it seems revolutionary at the time, but really when you look back on it, it's just like, yeah, we get it. Racism is bad. It's obvious. It's kind of like when Green Book won. When Green Book won in 2018, where it's just like, really? We're still doing this? But, I mean, there's a lot of great performances in Crash, but other than that, that movie is
Well, why does Crash win then? What's the competition?
It just had this weird, because I think I wrote it down here because I watched when it won, when it got announced. So when it gets announced, Jack Nicholson is presenting it. He opens the card, and then he like his eyes bulge in surprise, and then he's like, whoa, Crash. And then there's like an audible, not a gasp, but there's a moment of like pause, and then everyone erupts into a huge cheer. So I think it was like, and I do actually that I should just transition now into the Guild Awards, because the Producers Guild gave their Best Picture to Brokeback Mountain. Golden Globes gave their Best Drama to Brokeback Mountain. Crash wasn't even nominated. Critics' Choice Awards gave it to Brokeback Mountain. BAFTAs gave it to Brokeback Mountain. So, in none of those other guilds did Crash win an award.
One of which it wasn't even nominated for the award.
Yes. The only one it won was for SAG, where it won for like best performance by an overall cast.
Which is a weird.
But that's it.
It's a weird award. It's a weird.
Well, that's sort of like their version of like best picture, because they only do acting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's sort of like their version of it. But yeah, every single award show, Brokeback Mountain won. The only one that it wasn't eligible for was Golden Globes comedy/musical, which was given to Walk the Line. So, I mean, it was a huge surprise when it was announced, which explains Jack Nicholson's very surprised look. Yes.
Well, Jack Nicholson pulls no fucking punches.
Oh yeah, he doesn't give a shit at that point.
He doesn't give a fuck. So that's what makes Jack Nicholson awesome, is the fact that he doesn't care. Yeah. He just wants to go to Laker games and live his fucking life. That's it. That's all Jack Nicholson cares about.
Just a couple of the technical categories I had is editing. I would have went with Munich over Crash. I just rewatched Munich last month. That movie is like so underrated, and some of the editing choices in it. There's one sequence in particular with, I'll try not to spoil it, and just in case anyone wants to watch it, with a suspenseful bombing sequence, and it's really, really good. I mean, it's Spielberg, so obviously it's going to be good.
Shocking. Spielberg movie, that's good.
Yeah, and then I would have had a nomination for Pride and Prejudice for adapted screenplay. Original screenplay, I would have went with Good Night and Good Luck over Crash. And then cinematography, I would have went Brokeback Mountain over Memoirs of a Geisha. And then I would have liked to see a nomination for Pride and Prejudice as well.
Interesting. Cinematography in Memoirs of a Geisha, even in 3 minutes of film, is fucking great.
No, it's a gorgeous movie. Have you seen Brokeback Mountain?
Arts.
I think that movie is one of the. If I was to rank like all the like best cinematography like nominations, it'd probably be in my, I would guess in like the top 20 of that decade.
Impressive.
I think most people would probably put it up there.
Okay.
It's like just like gorgeous, like epic landscape shots.
Yes, I do know that. I know a lot of landscape shots.
Like beautiful Montana landscapes. So it's like, yeah, it's always going to look gorgeous.
Also, it's Ang Lee. His cinematography always looks good.
Yeah. So, jumping into the acting categories, do you have any changes?
0. I don't know enough about half these movies to even I know a lot about the movies, but I've never really watched any of these.
So I'm assuming the only one you've seen is Walk the Line.
You'd be correct. Well, name the other ones just in case.
Brokeback Mountain for directing. Capote, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Syriana, and The Constant Gardener.
Nope. Walk the Line is the only one I've seen.
Syriana, I couldn't tell you a single thing about that movie. It's like I've been like, that Men in Black clicker thing? That's like, I couldn't tell you a single thing about that movie.
The only thing I could tell you about Syriana is that George Clooney's in it. That's it.
Yep. Like, I know I've seen it, and that's it. So I probably should rewatch it.
He has a beard in that movie, correct?
Yes.
That's the only thing I could have told you. George Clooney with a beard.
I think it's like, I want to say it's like something to do with like Middle East wars or something.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you. Like, I don't remember. For some reason, George Clooney just never is like all that memorable to me. I don't know why.
George Clooney's got this weird vibe where you're like, that's a movie star. And then the vast majority of people can't tell you, outside of the Oceans franchise, can't really tell you a single movie he's done. Now, one of his movies is one of my favorites that will always end up in a top 100 list for me, which is Up in the Air. I adore Up in the Air. I think Up in the Air is a tremendous film. But other than that, I can't really tell you another movie that I'm like, yeah, George Clooney, yeah. I'm just kind of like, all right. Most of the time, it was just a calling card. Don't need to watch this. Was kind of the vibe for a lot of movies for me. If George Clooney was in, I kind of go, don't need to watch it because it's usually not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I think it was this year. He had 4 different ways he could win an Oscar because he produced Good Night and Good Luck. He directed it. He was acting in Syriana, and then he also, I want to say he wrote.
Did he write Good Night and Good Luck?
Yep, he was a co-writer on Good Night and Good Luck. So he had 4 different ways of winning. So he did win, at least one of them.
Yeah, he had a shot, and he had that shot.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really have any beef with anything. This is another grouping of movies that I'm not talking about the quality of the film. Just don't have a lot of appeal for a lot of them. Just the thing is, I think this is another classic example of why the Oscars struggle sometimes.
This year especially.
It's just a collection of movies. And when you can't fight, when you don't even have a single movie that generally appeals, not even like, whoa, we got a blockbuster here. We got this movie that just caught fire and people loved. When you don't even have a movie in major categories that at least got people talking to get a little bit momentum, it's a problem, because then most people just go, oh, it feels that like intangibility of like art house stuff for people, where people go, well, that's an art house thing. I don't watch those. That's not my thing.
And on that note, this was in the book that I have. For the first time, only one nominee for Best Picture, Munich, is a big budget studio movie. And that big budget, Munich has a budget of $79 million. Everything else is under that. So, like, these are smaller movies.
Yeah.
So,
also,
I mean, this is where, like, the reputation of, like, the snotty Oscars starts. Yeah.
I mean, it's accurate this year. Now, conspiracy theory. Does Crash win because of Scientology?
I couldn't see how it would.
I only say that, for those who don't know, he has since renounced Scientology. But the screenwriter, Paul Haggis, very, very prominent member of the Scientology community during this time. And this is the general era. This is when Crazy Tom Cruise comes out, the reason everyone hates Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
It's this era. But this is also the height of the church. I'm using the most air quotes I possibly fucking can for that. For this tax scheme. U.S. government failed us back in 93. Fucking idiots. But the Church of Scientology is doing its most outward, we're here to conquer the world. This is the time frame when they are trying to conquer every aspect. It's the only reason I'm like, if Crash isn't even on anyone's radar half the time, is that a possibility? This is a complete conspiracy theory. I've never looked into it. It's just a question.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but I don't think so. I think it was just the thing of like the pseudo like Hollywood wokeism of they think they're being really
progressive and avant-garde and
yes,
really
they
trying
think
to do
they're very progressive, but really it's like, okay, you're not really. It's just you're thinking you are. I think that's more what it is than anything. Kind of just like circle jerking each other with thinking they're really progressive. Yeah. So, but to get back to it, I only had one change. Instead of George Clooney, I would have picked Jake Gyllenhaal for Brokeback Mountain for supporting actor. And then just a quick shout out to, I would have liked to see a nomination for Joe Wright for Pride and Prejudice.
Big Pride and Prejudice fan over there. Damn.
Hey, if we ever do that top 100, that's in my top 50 movies of all time.
Wow. Okay.
I love that movie.
I can't wait for you and I to just have the biggest ultra clash of top 100s.
Oh yeah.
Because you and I have a lot of movies that unify us, but I think a lot of our favorites that we don't talk about are wildly different than what we would really do. And it's just interesting. I don't have much else on this. This is certainly a year for me that I just go, cool, you're the Oscars, no one gives a shit.
Yeah. And then on picture, the obvious thing that everyone says, Brokeback Mountain should have won. That's the choice I would have made. And then I would have taken out Crash and put in Pride and Prejudice.
So you are of the belief it doesn't even deserve a nomination?
No.
Would you say that movie's good?
No. I'd say it's mediocre.
That's probably.
In any other year, if that came out now, people would roll their eyes and say, yeah, it's really on the nose. And just like, we get it. We don't need this movie now.
We didn't need it in 2005, probably, but we got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and then just on that thing about like who was going into stuff really confident, and who had their dreams crushed. I have a feeling that Paul Giamatti probably did, because the Best Supporting Actor race, George Clooney won the Golden Globe, but Paul Giamatti won the SAG Award and the Critics' Choice Award. So I have a feeling he was probably pretty confident going into the Oscars. So, and he was nominated for Cinderella Man.
Yeah.
So he probably was a little upset when he didn't win.
And then he had to do the...
Yeah, and he still hasn't won, which I feel bad for him. Because I really like him.
I really like Paul Giamatti and everything that I've seen him in. There's not a movie that I go, not great, Paul. I've liked him in everything I've seen him in. It's just he I don't know if it's the projects he picks. There are sometimes some of the movies that he's in, it feels like he's hunting for awards, and I'm just kind of like, not the way to do it, man.
Well, last year, was it last year or 2 years ago? The Leftovers that he did. I loved that movie. And I really was hoping he would win. But Brendan Fraser won, so I was okay with that too.
Yeah. That's your boy. It's your boy from The Mummy.
1999, The Mummy's Brendan Fraser won an Oscar. Hell yeah. Now I get to say that for the rest of my life.
It completely legitimizes one of my favorite movies. I understand it. Favorite film from 2005? I don't know. Did we even see your favorite from? Oh yeah, 2004 was Azkaban. 2005. What's your favorite movie?
Yeah.
Seems like it's Pride and Prejudice.
Pride and Prejudice.
A fucking adaptation of a Jane Austen novel. You're like, yeah.
Let me see if there's any other. What's yours?
You know what it is. It's Batman Begins. Let's be honest. Come on now.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. It's a great fucking movie.
Yeah, I don't see what else it would have been for me except Pride and Prejudice. So I think I like Pride and Prejudice more than I like Goblet of Fire.
That says a lot. It does say a lot. A movie we both like from this year that I would say is good is Walk the Line. I do enjoy Walk the Line.
And Reese Witherspoon and Philip Seymour Hoffman, they swept every single award. So it's like they were shoo-ins for theirs. Which surprised me because I didn't realize how like of a shoo-in she was for that.
I remember when she won, a lot of people were like, really? Because it's Reese Witherspoon, and this is just a couple years removed from Legally Blonde. So people only see her in rom-com, Legally Blonde, Sweet Home Alabama. They don't see her as, this is legitimate actress Reese Witherspoon. They see this as, oh, it's that blonde rom-com girl.
Yeah, I think this is 2 years after Legally Blonde, which, that's impressive.
And again, I think it just shows the craft of the work. And it's really hard to... We've been on this topic with other actresses and actors in the past where they play a certain thing, so they're known for that, but they never get credit for actually being quite as good as they actually are. It's just always how it goes. I mean, it's the same reason. I truly think that's part of the reason some of the roles that... This is 2 shows in a row we've talked about Jim Carrey not getting a nomination for something that he probably deserves at least a nomination for.
Yeah.
And it's mostly because of, well, that's funny Plastic Man Jim Carrey. It's like, no, that's legitimate great actor Jim Carrey. He just happens to do a lot of comedies in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you paint yourself into a corner and then Hollywood can't get you out of it.
Yeah,
because they're assholes.
Even when you showcase that you're better, that's All right, move on. 2006. Gotta say, not the greatest year of film.
I'm gonna disagree a little bit.
So, but there's some shining lights here for me.
Exactly, that's what I would say. Yeah.
So to paint the picture, you want to talk about, hey, we're trying to make some franchises here. Pirates 2, Cars, X3, Da Vinci Code, Superman Returns, Ice Age 2. Let's keep going here. Hey, let's try to make Over the Hedge, another animated fucking feature here. Mission Impossible 3. Like,
hey, that's an underrated movie.
I'm not, again, half those movies are actually pretty good or mediocre films that get shit on too much. I'm not trying to say the quality is just straight up lacking. Some of them are. Okay? X3, Superman Returns. I wouldn't even say Superman Returns is bad. It's just boring. What a boring ass movie. It's not great, but what just a boring movie.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I forgot Casino Royale, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's just like making franchises. But then you have these shining light movies, The Prestige, Pan's Labyrinth, Little Miss Sunshine. And then movies that have really become these like cultural touchstones when at the time you didn't think they would. Like Devil Wears Prada has gone from this movie where people are like, oh, that Meryl Streep movie, to, for some reason in our generation, there's just a swath of people that will die on the hill for that movie. Idiocracy.
I've never even seen it.
I've seen it once. It's fine. It's fine. I think it's good, but it's not a must watch. There are people that are going to tell you, gotta watch it. It's fine. Again, it's most relevant because of The Office. It's just the truth. Another movie that really aged and became something when at the time it was not seen to be anything, Idiocracy. That's a movie that people did not care about whatsoever, just went unnoticed, and now, because it's essentially self-fulfilling prophecy, it's a cultural touchstone, because anytime someone says, you ever seen Idiocracy? You're like, I know, we're living in it right now, right? And you're like, yep, that's why I mentioned it. Or a movie that took over the zeitgeist, kind of died for a little bit, and then came back, Borat, where it's just like, didn't see that one coming. So, a lot of interesting stuff. Also, I forgot, let's continue down here. Night at the Museum, let's make another franchise. Hey, let's revitalize this franchise with The Hills Have Eyes. Just like, Jesus Christ. And also, I would be remiss if I did not mention 2006. I am sick and tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane. You can't mention 2006 cinema without snakes on a plane. It's not good. I've watched 10 minutes of it and was just ready to go. Nope.
I've seen it.
Oh, I know
the whole thing. It sucks.
You love Samuel L. Jackson. For a while, I think it could be argued your favorite actor was Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, it was, yeah.
And I remember just being like, Dylan, what are you doing? You're like, no, snakes on the plane. I'm like, Dylan, what are you doing?
Yeah, he makes some weird choices.
Yeah. And also another great movie, V for Vendetta. Nobody ever talks about it anymore. Great movie.
I don't love it that much. Okay, so Best Picture, actual nominees. You got The Departed that won Best Picture. Babel, Letters from Iwo Jima, mentioned earlier. Little Miss Sunshine, and The Queen. Director, Martin Scorsese for The Departed, finally winning after, I think this was his 6th nomination. Actor, Forrest Whitaker for The Last King of Scotland. Actress, Helen Mirren for The Queen. Supporting actor, Alan Arkin for Little Miss Sunshine. And then supporting actress, Jennifer Hudson for Dreamgirls.
Okay.
Got any technical?
I do have technical. Makeup. This movie is trash. Makeup, good. Nomination for X3, I think, is worthy. With Beast and half the other mutants, I think that deserves a makeup nom.
Would you say it deserves it over Apocalypto, Click, or Pan's Labyrinth?
Over Click? Yeah.
Click has some pretty good makeup, I will say that.
Apocalypto is a thing all to itself, and Pan's Labyrinth, it's like, you can't compete with Pan's Labyrinth.
That's what won. And yeah, that deserves it, 100%.
Pan's Labyrinth is one of those movies that I think people that know me would be like, oh, you love Pan's Labyrinth. Never seen it. I need to.
Oh, really?
It's always on that one of those days. Good. One of those days, I'll get to it.
You should have watched it. You should have watched it before Halloween. It's a good, weird, dark fantasy. Yeah, it's strange.
There's a lot of those movies that fit into that realm that are on my perpetual one of these days, but they never come around. So, technical category, I think a nom for X3 is worthy, because it's the only positive about that movie.
I could
Hugh Jackman doesn't suck in it.
Sure.
That's about as fine as it goes. Has a good intro that's intriguing, and then just goes nowhere. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I actually did rewatch it probably like about 3 months ago when I was on an X-Men kick.
Same deal.
And it wasn't as bad as I remember it, but it wasn't good.
Okay, do you remember what movie came out simultaneously? We went to the movies. You and like 2 friends went to something else, and I was adamant. I was like, I'm going to X-Men. And another one of our friends came with me. The friend that came with me fell asleep in X3 in the theater. We're right next to the speaker, by the way, and he fell the fuck asleep.
I can't remember what it would have been that we would have saw.
But yeah, it's...
Well, I do remember that, though.
Yeah.
That really rings a bell.
Yeah. So, I that is a technical category that I would...
Maybe it was Pirates.
I think Pirates came out after, because Pirates 2, I had to be... Because I remember Pirates 2, we watched the World Cup final, and then we went straight from the World Cup final into Pirates 2.
Okay.
Because it was Zidane's headbutt game, where he fucking headbutts the guy at the end of overtime in the Italy-France final. We literally saw that, went, that's fucking crazy, talked about it for 20 minutes with the rest of our friends that talked about soccer on the car ride to the movie theater, and went straight into Pirates 2. I don't know what it was, but yeah, it was interesting.
Huh.
Original song, would have liked to see a nomination for You Know My Name from Casino Royale, Chris Cornell. Great movie, great song.
Ooh, yeah, I didn't think about that one, but I would agree with that. Yeah.
I think that's pretty good. Adapted screenplay, Casino Royale. Also think deserves a nomination. It's adapted from a book. I think.
Sure. Yeah. And it's wildly different from the book.
Yeah.
That's like the only James Bond book I've read, and it's very different.
I mean, yeah. I haven't read many of the... I know a lot of the James Bond books, but I've never really read them. Reading... Me no read no good, as my wife likes to tell me. So, it's how it goes. Those are my technical ones to discuss. I don't think Casino Royale gets enough credit. That's really my thing. I don't think Casino Royale gets enough credit because it's always labeled as, what a great Bond movie. I'm like, no, what a great movie. Yes, it's a great Bond movie, but just what a great movie in general.
I'd agree. I also had song written down, but I would have picked Listen from Dreamgirls over somehow I Need to Wake Up from an Inconvenient Truth one. Don't know how that happened. Always confuses me. Maybe it was a Diane Warren song, and she somehow always gets nominated every single year. And I mean, still, she has to have like 30 nominations at this point. It's crazy.
She's in that John Williams category, where no matter what John Williams does, he just gets nominated.
It's crazy. Like, literally, every single year she has a nomination. Oh, it's not her. It's Melissa Etheridge. And then the other one I would have put sound mixing. I would have picked Pirates over Dreamgirls.
Okay.
They had a. This was like a thing like for like about a decade, where like from 2005 to 2015, where if you did a musical, most likely you're going to get the sound mixing and the sound editing awards. It always bugged me because it's like there's a lot of like really great sound mixing and sound editing, and like a lot of the big blockbusters, I will give them that.
Oh, that's what makes them fun is the sound. That's why you have to go to the theater to go watch those. The sound on some of those, you're like, this is awesome. Whether on screen is awesome or not is a different story, but the sound is always good.
So I actually don't have any changes for any of the winners for the acting categories, but I do have a couple shout outs. Best actor, would have loved to see Sacha Baron Cohen for Borat.
I think he deserves it.
And then Daniel Craig, Casino Royale. I think he's great in that movie.
I thought about it, but I thought I might get a little too much pushback on that one. But I thought about it because Daniel Craig. I don't want to give too much hyperbole, but that's kind of, for a guy who doesn't want to be in that franchise, that's kind of the performance of a lifetime, where he gives this nuance to this character that has been so this way this entire time, and he completely in one film goes from who's this blonde-eyed skinny fuck who's trying to be James Bond to this is the definitive version of this character, and anyone who comes before him, including the guy that everyone associates with this character, is second fiddle now. That's pretty fucking impressive.
And then a couple more shout outs. Christian Bale in The Prestige for supporting actor, and Ava Green for Casino Royale for supporting actress.
Also great. Been in love with her ever since it. I've been legitimately in love with that woman. The first time I saw Casino Royale, I just went, oh my god. I will say this. What category is Meryl Streep nominated for?
Best actress for The Devil Wears Prada.
Fucking ridiculous. She's not even the lead in the movie.
Oh, she's not?
No! That's Anne Hathaway's movie. Meryl Streep takes over. If they put her in supporting actress, who wins supporting actress? Is that Jennifer Hudson?
Oh, supporting actress is Jennifer Hudson, for Dreamgirls.
There's a good possibility she doesn't win, because Meryl Streep dominates that movie, but she's not the lead. She's the title character, but she's not the lead of the movie.
Well, I will say that there's no way she was going to lose, Jennifer Hudson. Because Forrest Whitaker, Helen Mirren, and Jennifer Hudson swept the Golden Globes, the BAFTAs, SAG, and Critics' Choice. So this was like one of those years where it's just like, this is going to be a boring show. Like, everyone pretty much knows the winners.
Sure.
And then this is a year where I can tell you pretty much with authority that Eddie Murphy was fucking pissed off beyond belief that he lost. Because going into this night, he had won the Golden Globe, the Critics' Choice, and the SAG Award for Best Supporting Actor. And then the only thing Alan Arkin had won was a BAFTA. And then Alan Arkin ended up winning the Oscar. Which, I gotta say, I don't mind, because Little Miss Sunshine is one of, again, like top 50 movie for me. I love that movie so much.
Never seen it.
And, oh, it's so good. It is so good. Paul Dano in that movie is hilarious. Yeah, it's like just quirky, and if you're a screenwriter or you want to be a writer,
you gotta watch
Little
Miss Sunshine. Yeah,
it's great.
I wouldn't say it's on brand for Eddie Murphy, because he's used to kind of not losing, but he's used to never being taken seriously. Maybe that's his thing, is he finally has the role where he thinks, I'm going to be taken seriously.
This was it. Yeah.
Fair, because the thing about it is Eddie Murphy during this time period doesn't make a lot of good stuff.
Oh no, I mean there was like jokes about like he lost because Norbit came out the same year. Like, people just didn't vote for him because Norbit was so bad.
How could he be this good if Norbit was that bad? Yeah, but
it's like the joke about like Eddie Redmayne where he won Best Actor, and then luckily right after the Oscars it was what's that really shitty movie he's in?
Jupiter's
the Wachowskis. Yeah, Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah.
luckily that came out after the Oscars. Everyone joked like,
bad.
Had that come out before?
Jupiter Ascending is bad.
And he's awful in that movie.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So like everyone joked like, oh, had that come out before the Oscars, I don't think they would have voted for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a reflection. With all due respect to Eddie Murphy, obviously comedy icon, cultural icon. That's not.
Yeah.
It's thrown around a lot. Eddie Murphy is legitimately a cultural icon. Hence the reason, no matter what shitty project he does, when it says, "Oh, Eddie Murphy's in this," people pay attention.
Yeah.
However, I think it says a lot in the last 25 years. His most relevant, best stuff has been an animated DreamWorks series.
Yeah, that's true.
And it sucks. As someone who wants to see more Eddie Murphy, and just... The other thing is, Eddie Murphy, from interviews and other stuff, took a real turn away from his brand when he had kids, where he like made a very conscious effort to try to stop being
That's very true.
Eddie Murphy, and he tried to be Family Man Eddie Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
And it really tanked a lot of his
stuff.
This
is probably that probably Dreamgirls probably was one of his first like more serious roles after all that, because Shrek, Daddy Daycare, Shrek 2, like
Orbit,
those are not like those aren't taken seriously.
Dr. Dolittle, like he's in all that shit. It's like it's just oh god, man. For someone,
it is what it is.
For someone that I love, there's a lot of his stuff that I do not like. Like legitimately, I don't like it. Not even it's fine. I'm just like, this is not good. Just not good.
And then Best Picture, even though it seems really obvious that The Departed would win, the Producers Guild, Little Miss Sunshine won. The Golden Globes drama was Babel. The musical or comedy was Dreamgirls. Critics' Choice was The Departed, and then the BAFTAs was The Queen. So everything kind of had one win going in, except Letters from Iwo Jima. But, I mean, it was Scorsese, and everyone kind of said
it's time.
Kind of thought he would win it. Yeah, it's his time, finally, you know. He hasn't won yet. So
you're going to be unhappy. I've never watched The Departed. I've seen scenes of The Departed. A lot of Scorsese stuff just doesn't hit with me to the point where I'm like, yeah. He makes these long-ass movies that most of the time I'm just like, all right.
He's
great.
It's not my favorite Scorsese movie, but it is good. It's really good.
My favorite part about The Departed is Matt Damon talking about Jack Nicholson in the scene in which he assassinates somebody. That's my favorite part of the whole thing. Is just like, that's a real sinister thing to do. Like, just because you can hear Jack Nicholson constantly just being like, well, because we're making a joke out of this whole thing. Like, you can hear Jack Nicholson. Mm-hmm. That's hearing Matt Damon describe Jack Nicholson creating something. That's movie magic. That just because you can see an actor's craft going like, I can do that, but I think I could do more, and that's the beauty of the craft itself. But yeah, otherwise, this is another year. This is another collection of movies that I was kind of like, all right, just at the time was not.
Yeah.
I could see if I had seen The Departed during that time period, probably going like, God, what a good movie! Oh, it's so great. I could see that as a possibility, but
Babel is Alejandro Iñárritu, but it's one of those like, it's kind of like Crash, kind of, in the sense, not in the sense of it's awful, but in the sense of like, it's a bunch of like interconnecting stories of like, yeah, like it's just like almost like vignettes almost of interconnecting stories, which I don't really love those kinds of movies.
At that point, just nominate the Avengers then, because that's all the Avengers is. First one.
Well, the Avengers sucks though.
Whoa,
Sorry.
whoa!
I don't like that movie.
I don't think I think it gets too much praise now. The Avengers is still good. It's not. It doesn't suck. Okay.
It's mediocre.
I can give you mediocre if you're not crazy about it.
Letters from Iwo Jima, I do think is actually like one of the best World War II movies because it's actually like a really nuanced look at the Japanese in World War II, which you rarely get.
Yeah,
especially from Clint Eastwood. Like you wouldn't expect that.
No, you think you're gonna get Americana, bring the boys home.
Well, he did because he also did that weird thing where he shot Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima. I want to say simultaneously or back to back because I think they came out 2006. I think they both came out 2006 actually. So, but yeah, Flags of Our Fathers, skip that one completely. It sucks. But Letters from Iwo Jima is really, really good.
Okay.
It's got, what's the guy's name in Inception?
Which one?
The Japanese guy.
Ken Watanabe.
Thank you. Yes.
Great actor.
Great in that.
Great actor.
Yeah. He's always great. And then the Queen is kind of like what I said about Ray, where it's like a great performance, but is the movie all that great? Yeah.
Is that a Miramax, or is that the next year that I'm thinking about with Judi Dench?
The Queen is Miramax, yes. I don't know if Harvey Weinstein was still in charge at that point. I'm not sure when he stopped being in charge of Miramax. He could have been.
Frankly, at this point, anything that's Miramax after our former discussions, I'm just
Miramax is always going to have that Harvey Weinstein stench to it. So, yeah. So, have you seen any of those?
No.
Is there anything you would change?
No, I don't know enough, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, change it.
But you don't. There's not like a movie you feel really, really strongly about. You're like, this.
From really what I know of, I think Little Miss Sunshine, from a writing perspective, could possibly push it over the top for me, the Best Picture category. But I, again, haven't seen it, so I don't want to affirm. Like, from what I know of it, it's.
I really played with that idea. I was like, oh, I really want to pick Little Miss Sunshine, but I was like, I think The Departed actually does deserve it. But I actually took out Babel and The Queen, and I put in Pan's Labyrinth. And I actually put in Borat. Because I was like, can you think of a movie that spawned like an entire genre like that in the past 15, 20 years, you know?
Oh.
Like there were so many Borat ripoffs after that.
Yeah, including from Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah, and none of them could do it as well as Borat did.
Yeah, Borat's a one of one. It's like it's a unicorn in that genre.
And so, apparently, Sacha Baron Cohen refused to present an award because they wouldn't let him do it as Borat. So that's always good to know.
To be fair, that's another one of those that the Oscars getting in their own way, be like, this is prestigious. And it's one of those things that if this were today, if that were to come out, they'd get roasted non-fucking stop because people would be like, this would make people actually want to watch this show.
But can you honestly blame them though? Like, I wouldn't trust Sacha Baron Cohen as Borat to do. I think he would do literally anything.
I would just put him in a category that's low stakes. I'm not saying there's anything.
No, but I'm saying I could see him literally getting naked on the stage just because he feels like it.
worth it.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it would be worth it.
Here's the thing. The Oscars is now known best for a slap.
Yeah, that's true.
The Oscars needs... There's a reason...
It would be memorable.
There's a reason they have an original song category. Do you need an original song category for the Oscars? No. That category exists.
Well, I would say yes.
That category exists so they can have a show. That's why that category exists.
I would agree with that, but I would say like songs are an important part of movies.
They're very important, and I've been some of my strongest takes in the last 2 episodes have been the song category. I'm not disputing their importance, but if you look at why that exists, that's the one element that they try to keep in for showbiz.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And that's where I'm like, your movie magic. Fucking have E.T. do some goddamn awards. You know, like, you want to appeal to people? Okay. Fucking have Ryan Reynolds come out as Deadpool and do that shit. Just one, like, and just say, Ryan, this is for sound mixing or whatever. No one's going to pay attention to this category. Okay, I'll get them to pay attention. And people, you can honor movies that aren't going to win awards like that and get people interested in that. Like, that's where I just go, what are you doing? Like, that's a missed opportunity.
That's where you just want someone to take a chance.
Yeah.
But no one's ever going to do that.
Well, the last time
the Oscars, unfortunately.
The last time the Oscars took a chance, it was James Franco and Anne Hathaway, and it didn't work out well.
True. Yeah.
Because James Franco was just high out of his mind and didn't care. And you can see Anne Hathaway just dying because she's trying so hard. And it's just not good. But yeah, that's a different story entirely. I can't wait for that year to come up so we can review some clips of that shit.
Yeah, that's coming up.
Any other takes on 2006?
Nope.
Favorite movie from 2006? I'm assuming it's Little Miss Sunshine.
Oh. Let me see. It'd be that or it'd be Casino Royale. Yeah, probably Little Miss Sunshine.
So I will say actual favorite is Casino Royale by far. However, I'm a big comfort movie person. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about a movie that I think in the calendar year of 2023 I watched legitimately 50 times on repeat because I would just put it on and just do stuff to it. I love Accepted. Accepted is one of my favorite comfort movies of all time. I love Accepted. So I can't talk about 2006 and not talk about Accepted. And also another movie that never gets talked about enough, The Prestige. I fucking love The Prestige. I think it's a great movie. No one ever talks about it because it's the Nolan movie sandwiched in between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, and no one ever talks.
Which is funny because I actually think it's one of the better Nolan movies, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's in the discussions. I mean, there's a clear, obvious number one, but then you kind of go from there.
I disagree.
That there's not a clear number one?
I don't think The Dark Knight is his best movie.
We're going to talk about that in 2008. All right, 2007! Yeah. You're already undermining my 2008 arguments here, motherfucker. – 2007. What a year of cinema we have to talk about here.
Hey, I gotta say, if that's a joke, I completely disagree. Like, this is like one of the strongest years.
Are you talking about for Oscar quality or quality in general?
Quality in general.
Okay, so let me give you the caveats here. The year is 2007. And the summer movie-going experience is Spider-Man 3, Topher Grace.
Ooh.
Shrek the Third, one of the worst sequels like ever.
Sure. Okay, maybe I should put a caveat. Some of my favorite movies.
I was going to say, Dylan, come on now. Pirates 3, which I love Pirates 3, but is not universally loved.
Yeah, definitely not.
They do some weird stuff.
Yeah.
Transformers. The first Transformers movie, which is a good movie. Transformers 1 is good.
I like that movie. Yeah.
It's a good movie. But that is the start of the downfall of cinema. Begins in 2007.
It definitely contributes.
We're also gifted with Alvin and the Chipmunks, Rush Hour 3, Live Free or Die Hard.
Not as bad as everyone remembers.
And the greatest cinematic experience of all time for meme culture, the Bee Movie, is released in 2007.
I've never seen that movie still.
I've watched clips of it, and I wanted to bash my head up against the wall. I was like, oh, it really is as bad as everyone jokingly says. Because at first you see like 2 minutes, and you're like, it's not that bad. And then you keep watching, like, oh, wait. Yes, it is that bad. Yeah. I love Jerry Seinfeld, but when he gets into the movies, goddamn, is it bad? Like, it's bad.
Yeah.
Now, also, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, 300, I Am Legend, Ratatouille, Knocked Up, Juno, Superbad. They're all also in this year. So it's not as if it just sucks. There's some good shit there.
Yeah.
Also, the cinematic masterpiece that is Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider is also released in 2007.
The only good thing about that movie
why I said it.
Eva Mendes looks amazing in that movie. That's it.
Oh, I do love seeing some of the movies she used. I was never an Eva Mendes fan. It was just, okay, cool, whatever.
Pretty much that and Hitch.
Eva Mendes, to me, is... Everyone has a different viewpoint on this. Eva Mendes, to me, looks like a studio going, that's a really hot woman who could be an actress. Copy-paste. And just puts them in stuff. I have no ill will towards this woman whatsoever. I've just never been wowed by anything she's been in. So pretty much, if I say Eva Mendes is on a cover, I just go, nope. Don't you see this?
I wouldn't say she's a great actress, but I really like her in Hitch a lot.
And I'm just like, all right, whatever. But goddamn, just some bad stuff in 2007. There's some great stuff. It's one of my favorite movies is from this year, so I can't say it's all bad.
Yeah.
But I can't say it's all good.
Pretty good Oscar year, though, I would say. So, actual nominees for Best Picture. One of my favorite movies of all time, No Country for Old Men, wins Best Picture. There Will Be Blood is nominated. Juno, Michael Clayton, and Atonement are the other nominees. Coen Brothers win for No Country for Old Men. The obvious Daniel Day-Lewis win for There Will Be Blood. Marion Cotillard wins for La Vie en Rose. Supporting actor, Javier Bardem for No Country for Old Men. Supporting actress, Tilda Swinton in Michael Clayton.
Okay. I have zero beef with any of those. I don't
got
know
any
about technicals. I do.
Changes at all?
For both,
let's go with that.
For both art direction and cinematography.
Okay.
I think I just like to put a shout out for 300.
So, art direction, the nominees are American Gangster, Atonement, The Golden Compass, which for some reason gets a lot of love from the Oscars this year.
Yes, it does. I noticed. Which makes no sense.
There Will Be Blood, and then Sweeney Todd wins, which I actually do agree with.
Yeah.
I actually really like Sweeney Todd quite a bit. I don't... 300, you really think deserves an art direction?
There's just such a unique visual style that without that style, that just becomes homoerotic men stabby stab.
I could see, like, I don't really love that visual style, so I could see like a cinematography standpoint.
Yes,
but like maybe it's been too long. I haven't seen that movie in.
So here is where
like when did it? So it came out in 2007.
Yeah.
I probably haven't seen it since 2010, maybe.
Well, we in our friend group loved 300. I also 300 was one of those.
I remember that.
I was like, it's fun. When people were saying, "Oh, it's the best movie ever," I'm like, okay, let's calm down there.
Yeah, I remember a lot of your friends loving it.
Well, a lot of my friends at the time were fucking idiots, which is why I don't talk to them anymore. But they were morons. But which also reflects on me as well. However, that is where Zack Snyder belongs. That is where Zack Snyder succeeds, is taking weird niche stuff that fits within his interests and make it visually appealing and fun and enjoyable. And the runtime on 300 is the appropriate Zack Snyder runtime. It's 140 minutes, I think. If that thing goes to 2 hours, it would shock me. I'll look it up now. That would be my
an hour and 40 minutes?
Yeah, that'd be my guess. Yeah. Hour and 40. Like, okay. I'm just going to look it up right now because whatever. Hour and 57. I'm shocked it's that long.
Yeah, that's too long.
But it's still much closer and much more appropriate for where Zack Snyder should be. Zack Snyder, as I've already stated on other episodes, is the most masturbatory filmmaker ever. And that's saying something because James Cameron exists. And yet, Zack Snyder is still the most, I'm so good.
No. James Cameron at least makes good movies.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
At least James Cameron makes quality movies.
He can back up his stuff with talent.
Zack Snyder, not as much. Zack Snyder in this era is also perfect for Zack Snyder. The remake of Dawn of the Dead is actually really fun and entertaining. 300.
I'd agree with that.
That's where he succeeds. That's what he's good at. Do that.
Yeah, Watchmen's also pretty good.
Watchmen's funny.
Too long, but pretty good.
Yes, he's not the one who should be adapting it, but it looks beautiful. It is pretty fun. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why he was chosen to do it, but nonetheless. But that's the. Also, is Watchmen released in 2007?
No, I think that's 2008, isn't it?
I don't have it on either. That's crazy. I gotta look that up.
Maybe it's 2009. I don't know.
I'll look it up, Justin.
I've only seen it the one time, I think.
2009. I loved Watchmen.
Okay.
But I didn't know the comic at that time either. Oh.
Yeah, cinematography, that's a tough category this year because The Assassination of Jesse James, which is a Roger Deakins movie, he actually gets 2 nominations this year for Jesse James and No Country for Old Men. Atonement, which is a gorgeous movie. The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which is I have not seen, but it's a Janusz Kaminski movie, who I don't love. I think that's kind of the downfall of Steven Spielberg's look a little bit, is Janusz Kaminski.
When Janusz comes in.
Yeah. And then There Will Be Blood wins it, which I think that's fair, but I would have liked to see Assassination of Jesse James take it, because that movie is like really, really interesting. But I mean, it's Roger Deakins. Everything he does is great. Was that the only technical changes you had down?
And then I have visual effects, Pirates of the Caribbean 3. The visual effects are tremendous. What wins that category? Is that even nominated?
Yes, it's nominated, but it loses to the Golden Compass.
I remember because then the Golden Compass never called to me. It just
And I will say, I watched when that new I don't know if the TV show is called The Golden Compass, the HBO new show that
I know they're trying to do.
Yeah, when that came out, I watched a visual effects breakdown of they were comparing the show to the old movie, and the movie's effects do not hold up at all.
Yeah, they suck.
Like,
they're not good.
And I would say like the Pirates effects still hold up pretty well.
I mean, ILM magic for you.
So
the fact that Golden Compass, just go look at the trailer. That's all you need. Go look at the trailer for each. You tell me which looks better.
I mean, I can see like maybe it was more revolutionary at the time. Maybe they did some technical thing like
what, the polar bear talking that just happened in Narnia the year before.
I don't know. Maybe that was some kind of like big deal at the time. I don't know. Like, we're not in the industry, so maybe. But to me, yeah, it doesn't hold up nearly as well.
To me, this feels almost like ILM fatigue, where they're like, we can't just give it to ILM every time. We can't. Even though they should, they can't. But
yeah,
the way...
Yeah.
Just look at the Kraken. Don't even look at the most obvious, Davy Jones, which is fucking brilliant and beautiful and is so goddamn good. Just look at the Kraken and you fucking tell me. Look at the Maelstrom when the two ships are going at it. That's all clearly visual effects.
Maybe, and I will say maybe it's because Dead Man's Chest won. So maybe that's why.
But this is the fucking
They kind of had that thing with... No, but I'm saying like they had that thing with Lord of the Rings where like Fellowship of the Ring won Best Cinematography, and then the other two weren't even nominated for Best Cinematography. So it's just like,
which is ridiculous with Return of the King specifically.
It doesn't
but
make sense.
Yeah, and this is again where I have zero issue if something is good at one thing, clearly just great. Like I goes back, whatever you want to compare it to. Big football guy. Detroit Lions of this time, they had one player, Calvin Johnson, and it is argued, and it can be argued accurately, he is legitimately the best player to ever play the receiver position. He is that dominant and he is that good. The only reason to watch Detroit Lions football of that time is Calvin Johnson. The rest of that team is utter garbage. And when I say utter garbage, I'm not talking about, they go like 5-11, they just missed the playoffs and we're... No, 0-16! Bad! Yet, there is a receiver that can be triple covered and still dominate a game. Pirates of the Caribbean. Is it the greatest cinematic experience of all time? No. Is it fun? Absolutely. Is it extremely enjoyable? Yes. Are there some weird moments with some crabs? Of course there are. Okay. That fucker looks utterly gorgeous. And if it just is good at it, just let it win because it's the truth. The truth is the truth. Don't deny the truth.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I wish they would kind of explain it at times, but they never will.
No, because it feels like that's where it starts feeling like there's a lot of content that I devour on YouTube. I'm the classic YouTuber where I'm like, I don't see a lot of difference in stuff, and yet I watch every list show and everything what's in my world. I always watch that. We make them. I can't shit on them. But the amount of times on even those shows that they're like, I just really didn't want to put all this, so I varied it up. Yeah, it's crazy because even when I'm prepping for like our top 100 show that we're eventually going to do, I started with franchise films and just went, these are the ones I love. These are the ones I love. These are the ones I love. And then started doing others. Yeah, I get it. You don't want to just do the same thing over and over again. But if it's just the truth, just the truth.
Yeah, the only other one besides visual effects I wrote down is a nomination for adapted screenplay for Zodiac, because Zodiac is one of my favorite movies.
I did think about that and I forgot to put it down. I think Zodiac should be nominated for Best Picture. I fucking love it.
You'll see a Zodiac return. Zodiac will return.
It was one of those I was just doing notes and I completely forgot. All right, let's go to the Big Six.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's see here. Well, do you have any changes in the Big Six?
Yes.
Okay. What do you got?
Wasn't even nominated and deserves to do it. Best Actor, Jerry Seinfeld for the Bee Movie. I couldn't even get through it. Fuck, I couldn't even get through it without laughing.
I don't even know technically if
a voice actor
animated performance can be nominated.
All I'm saying is it's clearly the greatest performance ever given, so it needs to win.
Sure.
It needs to win. No, I couldn't even finish the joke without laughing. I don't have any Big Six changes in terms of winner. I think I looked at the 2007 movies and couldn't, if I'm remembering correctly, couldn't argue Zodiac, but I felt Zodiac certainly deserved to be in that category. I think it's just what an underrated film. We talked about Zodiac before multiple times.
Zodiac never gets any love, and it didn't get love in 2007.
And it's also crazy. There's really popular actors in that are more popular now. You'd think they would get more pub. It's fucking Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, and Jake Gyllenhaal. Those are all Marvel poster boys.
Yeah, I don't remember when we talked about it. Was it like top 10 horror that we talked about it? But I was saying, like, if it came out today, it would make like so much money.
Oh yeah.
But it was, I don't know if there was a flop, but it definitely didn't make much money in 2007.
What a good movie. What a good movie.
I literally watch that movie like 5 times a year.
It's great.
I love that movie.
I love Zodiac. It's great.
I only had one change down. I would have went Saoirse Ronan in Atonement for Best Supporting Actress over Tilda Swinton. And then a couple shout-outs. David Fincher, Zodiac. Jake Gyllenhaal, Zodiac. Emile Hirsch in Into the Wild.
Okay.
He's great in that movie. Keira Knightley in Atonement wasn't nominated. RDJ in Zodiac. Paul Dano also wasn't nominated in There Will Be Blood, which actually really surprised me when I went back and looked. And then I think Helena Bonham Carter also deserved a nomination for Sweeney Todd. She's good in that movie.
Never seen Sweeney Todd, which I know I should. Never watched it all the way through. I've seen tons of clips. It's one of those that's gotten not Shawshanked, but close, where I've seen so much of it through clips that I kind of go, do I need to?
I was gonna say if it's been Shawshanked in terms of like people like raving about it, that's weird.
Yeah,
because it's not like the greatest movie of all time.
No, it's more so I've seen so many clips of it that I'm like, do I need to go back and watch this?
Yeah. In terms of who is going in confident, obviously Daniel Day-Lewis, he won every single award ever. He's going in confident. Javier Bardem, once again, he swept every single award. The Best Actress race is actually really interesting. You have Julie Christie, who actually had already won an Oscar. She won in 1965, I think. I want to say. I just actually watched her movie not that long ago called Darling. Not really a deserved performance, but it is what it is.
Just you calling out movies from the past, but it's not good.
Yeah, I mean, there's like that's eventually I want to do like a video about like all the nominees of Best Picture and just say, can you skip it or should you watch it?
Well, I'd love to do that with you.
So yeah, Julie Christie and Marion Cotillard are the front runners. Those are the only two that really have a chance. I actually haven't seen Away From Her, which is Julie Christie's movie. She has a Critics' Choice, the SAG Award, and a Golden Globe And then Marion Cotillard won the BAFTA, but also won a Golden Globe for musical or comedy. So they both won a Golden Globe. So I'd say Julie Christie probably was way more confident, considering she won the SAG. And then supporting actress is wide open, literally wide open, because you have 4 different winners. You have Amy Ryan in Gone Baby Gone, who won a Critics' Choice, Cate Blanchett winning a Golden Globe, Tilda Swinton, who won the BAFTA, and then Ruby Dee in American Gangster, who won us the SAG. So Saoirse Ronan was the only one who didn't win anything.
So she knows she ain't winning something.
But she's also like 12 years old, which Oscars love like a new up and coming actress.
I mean, Saoirse's pretty good in pretty much anything she's ever done.
And she's great in Atonement. Like I said, I would have picked her. I think she's that good in that movie.
Impressive.
Atonement, I think, is actually a really, really underrated movie. But I also have, I think, a huge fondness that many people don't for Joe Wright, because Pride and Prejudice. So.
Oh, yeah. You mean the film genre known as the Keira Knightley period piece girl genre? That one?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
The one that everyone just goes, yeah, Keira Knightley, she's in that period piece again. Big shock there.
Then on that Best Actress note, when I watched the video, Julie Christie does look pretty pissed off when it's announced. It's pretty...
They already won one.
I don't want to say, like, evident, but, like, it looks like she's, like... She felt confident, and then she's not happy when she didn't win.
Fair.
But, I mean, I think that's fair. Because you probably do go in confident considering you won the biggest award, which Screen Actors Guild. Yeah, and then when Daniel Day-Lewis is announced, literally no one is surprised. No one in the entire room. Like, literally no one. Everyone just goes, like, no big cheers or anything. Everyone knows it's a shoo-in that he's gonna win.
That's where you need to have a little fun with it. That's where someone says Jerry Seinfeld for the B movie. Nah, I'm just playing. It's Daniel Day-Lewis. So the whole crowd goes, huh? And then, oh, you're just fucking with us. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Also, I will say, this year, 2007, all the actors killed it in their speeches. No one went over 2 minutes. That's how you do it.
Is Daniel Day-Lewis just the rule? If he is nominated, he wins? Is that just the rule?
Not always, but there's a good chance, yeah.
Because he's just the male Meryl Streep,
where
it just feels like
and I will say,
he nominated, he win.
But I will say he usually does deserve it when he wins, so, like,
it's because
you can't really argue.
He as a human being is just a blank canvas for an actor. That's all he is. It's just...
Yeah, it's really... Like, in There Will Be Blood, he is amazing, and My Left Foot, which he won in 89, that performance is amazing as well. So it's like, I can't really argue when he wins. So, but, yeah, he's a strange man.
Oh yeah. He's coming out of retirement, though, I believe.
To be in his son's movie.
Dude, just imagine if he actually did a real fun movie.
I don't want to see him in a, like, fun movie. I wanted to see him in, like, more, like, I want to see him in stuff like There Will Be Blood, where it's, like, big, serious epics and stuff. That's the fun stuff to see him in.
Imagine the way he could elevate a film.
I don't want to see him in a Marvel movie.
Oh, not Marvel. I don't want Marvel, no. Because Marvel always just takes people and you're like, oh, that's fun. They're in that. Like Cate Blanchett. I love Cate Blanchett. She's great as hella, but it's a lesser Cate Blanchett role. I'm talking like, go be in the Batman with Robert Pattinson with a director like Matt Reeves, who actually would like to do something fun, but is going to do big shit. That'd be cool. Be fun.
That's where you get Paul Dano and just let him be.
Yeah, Paul Dano, also known as I will just embody this crazy person to the point where you're like, I'm not sure this person's hinged in the slightest.
I think maybe Paul Dano took something away from Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood, because
he may have.
He's pretty damn young in There Will Be Blood.
Anything else on that, on 2007?
Oh, one other thing. I don't know if this was possible, but I think it is. My esteem for the Coen brothers went way up. Because they are such classy guys. So they win for Best Screenplay, and then Ethan spoke. They win for Best Director, and then Joel spoke. And then when they win for Best Picture, they just step aside and they let the other producers speak. I was like, man, that's classy. Like, they're not greedy and like, trying to grab the mic from everyone, trying to speak all the time. I'm like, that's a class act.
It helps that you already see them, but it is certainly weird when a Best Picture wins and it's not the Best Director winner, and then the producer's talking. You're like, no one wants to talk to you. I know it's supposed to be a producer award technically, but it's like, shut up. No one cares because of you.
Technically, the producer is supposed to speak, and I actually really prefer when only the producers go up, the people who are nominated, because I hate when the whole cast goes up. I hate that. It drives me crazy. I'll speak about that in the next year. Also, this producer who speaks was Scott Rudin, who kind of got canceled a little bit. But surprisingly, not for any sexual misconduct stuff, just for being a total asshole.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, apparently he would throw shit at people and stuff.
Oh, so. Well, you're a douchebag then. Fuck you. If you're just like a prick, you're just like rude.
Yeah,
you can get away with that.
Like,
you're chucking shit.
At people. Apparently he was like the most feared man in Hollywood or something. I don't know. Yeah, Best Picture. I had two changes here. I would have taken out Michael Clayton, and I would have taken out Juno, and I would have put in Zodiac and Ratatouille. But No Country for Old Men obviously still wins for me.
Really? Juno? It's controversial from the time. You don't get Juno.
Don't like that movie.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
To be fair, Juno is certainly a movie that for the first 6 months after it comes out and it gets all this buzz, people are like, oh my god, Juno. And then you go watch it later, if you're not part of that initial buzz, you kind of go like, okay.
Yes.
It's not a movie that's gonna pull at you forever. It's not. For instance, I just had this experience with Howl's Moving Castle and The Abyss, where I watched them and I just went, I don't know if these are part of my top 100 films. Howl's Moving Castle has a chance to be, with some time.
Oh, really? Okay.
The animation to that is just utterly gorgeous, and the English voice cast literally feels like I cast it, so I can't
Oh, I haven't seen the English one. I only watched the Japanese one.
I just, whatever's on HBO is what I watch it with. Christian Bale is Howl. Wonder if I'm gonna like that. Lauren Bacall is the Witch of the Waste, who is, in my opinion, Lauren Bacall's the most beautiful woman to ever walk the face of this earth. And I was just like, anything Lauren Bacall does, I'm just like, you go, girl. So that's already.
I didn't realize she was still alive.
Yeah, this is really towards the end of her lifetime and her career. Billy Crystal is the fire demon. God, it's the weird whatever. The fire demon. That's Billy Crystal. And then the little kid is Josh Hutcherson. That's a perfect role for young Josh Hutcherson. It was just this voice cast is phenomenal. It's mixed perfectly. It's a world I can buy into with a message that is tremendous, with animation that is just so utterly gorgeous. And the same thing The Abyss. I don't know if The Abyss is going to go down in that realm for me, but I'm going to forever remember The Abyss. Just
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a wild ass holy fuck movie.
Yeah.
And it like it just pulls at you. Where like Juno doesn't do that. Juno, you're like, okay, well, that's an hour and 45.
Well, when's the last time anyone spoke about Juno?
When Diablo Cody makes a movie and they say, oh, the writer of Juno.
Yeah, but that's it. Like, no one even speaks about it, even in terms of like, oh yeah, Juno, I remember that movie. It was really good.
Yeah.
Like, no one does.
Fair.
So.
Ratatouille.
Yeah.
I do like how much of an animation guy you are. Where if it's good, you don't give a shit. It's going in. It's going in.
I don't care. And that will return in 2008.
Favorite movie from 2007? It's an
easy No Country for Old Men.
So again,
it's in my top 10 of all time.
Never seen it.
Oh, it's amazing. I love that movie.
It is partially it's the one of these days list, and partially the it's so good. Anton Chigurh, it's so good that I just go, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
the thing is, the clips I've seen of it, Javier Bardem, that's one menacing motherfucker.
Yes.
I'm not disputing that. It's just more so like it mixes between those two worlds of one of these days, and everyone who talks about it won't shut the fuck up, and I just go, I'll get to it eventually.
Well, I just love that you get back to back like two of the most menacing villains of all time in back to back years, winning Oscars. It's great.
Favorite movie of 2007 for me? Superbad. What a great fucking comedy.
Yeah, okay.
Superbad is a phenomenal movie.
There, yeah.
It's a great comedy. That's, to me, Superbad is the like last of a genre almost. It's like really strange where it's like old school to Superbad. It's just everyone that kind of weaves in and out of everybody's movies, sort of. And it's just irreverent bullshit for the sake of irreverent bullshit. And the way a comedy... I know I've said a lot about how modern comedies is just, let's go for the laugh at all times. I love how Superbad does it, but there's still conflict between all the characters. It's not just like...
there's solid structure.
There's a lot of solid structure to Superbad. And I just love that... I just love the idea of half the shit that happens. Like, it's such a high school kid's idea of found beer. How do I get it to the party I said I was going to bring it to? Laundry detergent container. You're like, what? Like, dancing on someone because you don't have a tampon. Fucking comedic brilliance at its finest. Or just some of the dialogue that Bill Hader and Seth Rogen have. You know Yoda from Attack of the Clones? You're like, of all the movies you could have possibly picked for this reference.
You could argue original screenplay on Superbad, I'd say.
And honestly, I know it's a niche for me. One of the best usages of music I've ever seen in like outside music in a movie I've ever seen. When they're playing Panama, when they're just doing donuts in the parking lot, that's how you use music in a movie. That's how you do it, right? Fucking there. And just shooting at it and he's like wheezing and just like tight. You're like, this is a movie. This is a movie. What a good movie. God, I love Superbad so much. Much better than Juno for Michael Cera. I like Michael Cera and Juno.
100%.
Way better in Superbad. Way better usage of Michael. And we move on to our final year of the episode. This is going to be a long one, but that's A-okay. 2008. We got some bigger entries into the like some big heavy hitter franchises here. In the same year, Batman hits its peak. Marvel hits the scene with Iron Man. Indiana Jones is revived with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And the follow-up to Casino Royale comes out with Quantum of Solace. So, there's a range of quality in that arc there that we talked about. Also, Marvel with the Incredible Hulk. And that would be a good episode eventually. There's a lot of good YouTube content out there. If you ever want to understand how movies are made, The Incredible Hulk is a really good writer's one. Because it's like utterly disputed forever because of Edward Norton. But then you also have movies of the time like Hancock, Wanted, like just wild ass weird fucking movies. Twilight comes out in 2008. Like there's a range here that we're like,
hey, phenomenon.
It was a phenomenon, not for good reasons. It was a phenomenon. And then you have animation up the wazoo, WALL-E, Kung Fu Panda, Madagascar 2. Then you get a lot of comedies with Tropic Thunder, Step Brothers, Yes Man, kind of the last pure Jim Carrey comedy movie. And then just weird, almost indie style stuff with Slumdog Millionaire and The Wrestler. Just a weird gambit of a year. A lot of range there. If you like any genre of film, you can find it in 2008. You can find a prominent movie.
Yeah. Yeah, 2008, I actually think is one of the strongest years in terms of like both Oscars and just like general viewership.
Sure.
So for actual nominees for Best Picture, you got the winner is Slumdog Millionaire. The other nominees, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Frost Nixon, Milk, and The Reader.
Okay.
And then director, Danny Boyle for Slumdog Millionaire. Actor is Sean Penn for Milk. Actress, Kate Winslet for The Reader. Supporting actor, the obvious Heath Ledger, Dark Knight win. And then supporting actress, Penelope Cruz for Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
Okay.
You got any technical changes?
Yes. Original score. I don't, again, understand how The Dark Knight is not even nominated, because I think it should win.
I have a nomination down for that as well.
I think either Why So Serious or A Dark Knight should be put in as nominations, and frankly, I think either deserves it over whatever the fuck won. Can't remember because I was just mad. I just went, what the fuck? Compared to those two. It's more so, but I love a certain style of score. It's a subjective.
Are you talking about song or score?
Score.
Okay, well, that just means score as a whole. So, yeah. The score nominations are Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Defiance, Milk, Slumdog Millionaire, which won, and WALL-E.
Yep. Dark Knight's better than all of them. Better than all of them.
I would argue it's not better than all of them.
And however,
I would argue it's not better than WALL-E or Slumdog Millionaire, but
I would also say this. Really happy Defiance got some noms. Defiance is a movie no one knows about. Great movie. I love Defiance. No one talks about that movie.
That's the only nomination it got.
I know, but I'm just glad it got something. Okay? Defiance is a really good movie that no one ever talks about.
Wanted got 2 nominations.
You can talk about Wanted because I know you fucking loved that movie for so long.
I did love that movie when it came out. It was so good.
You were obsessed with Wanted, and the fact that in a year that had The Dark Knight and you were more obsessed with Wanted legitimately pissed me off. Like, I was just like, fuck off, Dylan. Like, what are you doing? So either I could say for, I guess, score, since it's the total thing, I would say The Dark Knight. Either on the song, I would say Why So Serious. If I gotta say a single song from it to hit the tone of the movie, Why So Serious or A Dark Knight could do it for me. But I guess I would probably, for the tone of the movie, go Why So Serious.
For song, you rarely get one that doesn't have lyrics in it.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely.
Yeah. So that's why I went more score on that, not understanding it as well.
This is also a strange year because there's only 3 nominations for Best Song.
Weird.
Usually there's 5. Almost always 5. There's only like a couple years where they did 3. So 2 songs from Slumdog Millionaire and then 1 from WALL-E.
No Mamma Mia? No Sex in the City? Wow. Crazy. Also, I should have mentioned them.
No, well, Mamma Mia wouldn't be eligible because those are, I don't think they're original songs.
Sure.
But made for the movie.
I also only brought those up because they do deserve to be said in the zeitgeist of the year, as much as it pains me how much Sex in the City I've seen in my lifetime with the wife that I am married to.
Sure.
But it is actually pretty important to a whole heck of a lot of people, so, and it's pretty wild that I've
never seen a single episode, and I never will.
There are a few episodes that are actually pretty good, but it's just not. It's nonsense for the most part. And Mamma Mia, the only thing I know about Mamma Mia is Pierce Brosnan and Amanda Seyfried in it. Meryl Streep in that movie? Yeah.
Yes.
That's all I know about Mamma Mia, and I obviously know part of the soundtrack that everybody fucking knows.
Yeah.
That's it. So, to continue technical categories, though, visual effects, I actually could see a shout out for The Incredible Hulk. I think the effects in The Incredible Hulk are very good.
Only 3 nominees again. Here's Case of Benjamin Button, 1. The other nominees were The Dark Knight and Iron Man.
I know Benjamin Button was all the de-aging stuff and the aging stuff. I couldn't argue it. It's one of those. That's one of those. It's a shame in both ways to me. It's a shame because no one gives a flying fuck about that movie past the year that it comes out.
I like that movie.
I'm not shitting on the movie. I've never seen it. It was just more so being of a certain age and a certain ilk at that time, just going like,
oh sure,
whatever. Again, it's my own biases that I have to get over. It's just like, it's a crying shame because for what it actually does for visual effects is very, very important. And we're still seeing studios, major houses of effects companies struggle to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So I can't shout that. I can't say that it doesn't deserve its win. It does. But then it's also got stuff against it that has so much more cultural impact that it's like one of those like catch-22s where, well, it should because Iron Man, or like the visual effects in Iron Man are incredible. Just incredible. But at the same time, it doesn't push forward a very, very difficult thing in visual effects the same way Benjamin Button does.
Yeah. The funny thing is, like, in, let's say, 20 years, if someone like me, if, like, some kid goes back and watches all these Oscar movies, like I have been, like, there's times when I go back and watch visual effects or something like that, or, like, art direction or something like that, and I go, why the hell did this win? And I just don't understand why it won. People will do that with Benjamin Button because I'm sure that the aging stuff will slowly get better and better and better over the next 20 years, and it will look so bad comparatively.
Yes.
Whereas I think The Dark Knight and Iron Man probably will still hold up a lot better.
And that's the thing is, I wouldn't even argue for the Dark Knight. It's one of the few categories I wouldn't argue the Dark Knight wins.
No, but I'm just saying, like,
yeah, I know what you're saying.
I understand why Benjamin Button won, and I actually would agree that it deserves its win, but I don't think it's going to actually hold up the best out of those three movies.
Right. Also, I went through notes. I couldn't find it. But I wanted to shout out something. Okay, then. This in our episode. I did want to note this from a previous episode that I failed on. 1995 visual effects. Casper. Needs to get some more fucking recognition. That shit's glorious. Can't remember if it was nominated or not. It's incredible visual effects. Incredible.
I think we mentioned it.
I can't remember if we did, so I just wanted to note it because I was watching it on Halloween and just going, holy shit, this is really good, especially for 1995.
I'm fairly certain I mentioned it.
But Casper, fucking great. I just couldn't remember, so I had to note that down, just in case.
Yeah.
But yeah, visual effects.
It's impressive.
Visual effects, I just thought maybe a nod. Just a shout out to The Incredible Hulk, I think is pretty good. Writing, I think definitely The Dark Knight deserves original screenplay. I definitely.
I put a nomination down. Yep.
I definitely think they deserve a nomination for that. And then we can get to Big Six.
Okay. The only other one I had down is original screenplay. I would have went WALL-E over Milk.
Okay.
But that's just personal preference. I love WALL-E more than most people I know, so.
WALL-E is one of those that it got almost a little too much critical praise compared to some of the other animated films of its time.
Not to me.
I know, but it was for a lot of people that had gone through Incredibles and Ratatouille, and then years after Toy Story 3, How to Train Your Dragon, like that era of animation, Up as well. The fact that WALL-E kind of got more critical discussion over all of those movies kind of painted the picture for a lot of people like, fuck WALL-E comparatively, which isn't inherently fair. It's not the movie's fault that people in critical circles really liked WALL-E. But when you go back and watch WALL-E, for most people that aren't you kind of go, it's good. Like, that was my reaction.
Top 10 movie for me.
When I watched WALL-E, I just went, it's good. I was just like, okay. It's good.
In terms of, like, the videos I watched of they did this really cool thing, which I actually really like and I really hate, where they had 5 past winners come out and then present the awards.
Sure.
Which is both really cool, but also really stupid and really annoying because it really, really prolongs the whole show, because then you have to have a standing ovation for all of them.
Yep.
Where you have like 2 minutes standing ovation for 5 winners. Super annoying. But I only mention it because I imagine, because each past winner talks about one of the nominees.
Yeah.
So, like, the supporting actress presenters were Eva St. Marie, Whoopi Goldberg, Tilda Swinton, Goldie Hawn, and Angelica Houston. And all I imagine is, like, there's definitely a couple of those where you're like, ooh, I hope I get that one talking about me, Where you're like, I don't want Whoopi talking about me. I want Eva St. Marie talking about me. Like, I just thought it was funny. Like, who's getting the short end of the stick here?
It certainly does feel sometimes when they pull that one out of the hat. There's always like 3 of them. You're like, yeah, and then there's one where you're like, I get it, and then there's one where you're like, oh yeah, I forgot they won.
Well,
like Nicolas Cage. Didn't they just do one with Nicolas Cage? And you're like, what? What is this? And I'm not like, Nicolas Cage has done actually a lot of good recent work.
I don't know if they've ever done it past this year, honestly.
They just did
but
something like
he has
that.
presented before because they always have the one who won the year before present. So
I swore I
yeah,
saw a
but
clip or something that was just like, maybe it wasn't the Oscars, I don't know, but it was like 5 actors doing it, and it was clearly like Nicolas Cage was clearly the odd one out of the bunch, where I know his more recent work that's been really correctly praised has earned him some more respect in those circles, but it was just like so weird with us growing up in the generation of Nicolas Cage just being in utter garbage after utter garbage movie to then see like Academy Award winner Nicolas Cage, and you just go, what?
Yeah. And then just to cover the guild part, pretty much Slumdog Millionaire was going in a favorite. It won Critics' Choice, Producers Guild, a Golden Globe, and a BAFTA. Danny Boyle swept everything for director. The best actor race was between Mickey Rourke and Sean Penn. That's it. Heath Ledger swept everything. He was gonna win. That was a given.
Is that performance based? Is that sympathy based, or both?
Both.
I think that's fair.
I think it's truly both. I actually don't think it's sympathy based. I think it's performance based and also kind of like a lifetime achievement kind of thing. You know, because it's like, okay, we're kind of recognizing him as a whole. This, because this is his only chance, really.
Well, apparently he should have won for Brokeback Mountain and never did.
I would somewhat agree. It's hard to argue about because Philip Seymour Hoffman also, I would say, that is a worthy performance. But the big thing to cover this year is, so Kate Winslet wins Best Actress for The Reader this year. But the whole guild thing is so strange this year because so she wins a Best Actress BAFTA for The Reader, but then she wins Best Supporting Actress at the Golden Globes for The Reader, and then she wins Best Supporting Actress at the SAG Awards for The Reader. So there was this whole weird split between is she a Best Actress or Best Supporting Actress in that movie. So at the Oscars, she was obviously nominated for Best Actress, not Supporting Actress. So Best Supporting Actress was really up for grabs because she wasn't even in that category.
You gotta feel if you're in the category, if you just gotta feel that if you're in the category she's not in, ultimate boon, you now have a chance. Because it's clear that no matter what, she was going to win whatever she was in. It just must suck when the nominations come out and you're in the same category and you just went, well, that's my chance.
Yeah. Because I think the only one who probably felt she had a chance was Meryl Streep, who was in Doubt that year, which she is good in that movie. I will give her that.
Shocking. Meryl Streep thinks she should win? Who would have thought?
I don't think she's as bad as... No, I think everyone
else is.
It's everyone around her.
Everyone else around here, I will never understand. I have no beef with Meryl Streep, the person or the actress. Everything I've ever seen her in, I'm like, pretty good.
Oh, also, I should have mentioned this in 2007. I'm fairly certain George Clooney said Marion Cotillard, her performance in La Vie en Rose, is the best performance he's ever seen. I forgot to mention that.
Impressive.
Just wanted to say that. Yeah.
He is a big film buff. He is a very big student of the game, and he comes from old Hollywood. Like that's a big deal.
So there was this big... I didn't know that about, like, she had won... There was this whole thing about, is she Best Actress or Best Supporting Actress? But do you have any changes in the 6 categories?
Yes.
I was going to say, I'm assuming you do.
So I will at least throw Nom. I would pick him, but it seems like everyone else would say Danny Boyle. I still think Christopher Nolan deserves the best director for
I'm
Dark
gonna
Knight.
shock you and say I agree.
That is legitimately shocking to me. I just
I I love Slumdog Millionaire way more than most people, I think, but I have to admit, like, the Dark Knight is like, in terms of scope, it's pretty fucking impressive.
the thing about this is if you want to say what I'm most bullish about the Dark Knight winning, ironically enough, would not be Heath Ledger.
No, it would have to be.
The thing is this is because it feels like the shoe in. So I was like, oh, I don't have to fight for that one.
Oh, sure.
More
Well,
more
yeah.
so that the ones I would argue the most for would be writing, director, and best picture. It just what is accomplished in that film. There's not a single ounce of fat on that movie. Zero. It and I understand. I'm biased. We just did the review a couple months ago for it, and I was flabbergasted at how much I went in and fell in love with it again because I was watching it through
What's
completely
nominated for editing? Didn't know that.
But the fact
Lost
that
Slumdog.
the fact that Christopher Nolan is not even nominated. This is the year that people start the revolt. This is the year that people go, this is bullshit.
Yes, this is where it becomes a thing. Like, okay, we obviously need more than 5.
Well, beyond the fact that we need 5, all due respect to anyone else in those categories, not critiquing their work, because it always sucks when you have to start these arguments, because then it makes it seem as though what's in it doesn't deserve to be there. And that's not inherently true in every kind. Sometimes there is a crash, and it doesn't deserve to be there. Sometimes it's not that. You know, there's stacked years like the year before where it's No Country for Old Men, and you're like, well, obviously it deserves to be there. You know, obviously it deserves to win. All that kind of stuff. But this is the distinctive, obvious year in which there is a movie that is not only so good at everything it fucking does, but appeals to a major audience, almost unlike anything that comes before it for 20 plus years. And every major audience movie goes, it doesn't even get recognized? And it felt like the Oscars, there was a part of it for audience members that felt like because the Oscars were going to honor Heath Ledger and everyone knew Heath Ledger was going to win, it felt like part of it for audience members, that was the Oscars' way of acknowledging the entire movie, and it's dead wrong for doing that.
Yeah, and I would still say no, this is still kind of the Oscars at its most snooty.
Yeah, it is.
Unfortunately. Because
this is when they're smelling their own farts, and it's bullshit.
You can look back and say, like, okay, I completely agree, No Country deserves it. The Departed deserves it. Like, they do get stuff right, but they also get stuff wildly wrong in this time. And yeah,
I mean, even I don't think it's of the caliber of The Dark Knight, but we talked a lot about Casino Royale. Barely gets any recognition, and it's a legitimately a great movie. It gets like nothing.
Well, it does get nothing,
and it's one of those that you just go, had you just nominated it for one fucking thing, you could have avoided a lot of problems. And here, it's if you would have just said, although it is obviously the best movie of the year, I don't care any discussion, The Dark Knight is better than anything in 2008.
No.
Oh, yeah. But the fact that had you just nominated Christopher Nolan for director, you probably could have got away with it. You probably could have got away with it and it would have been fine. And an entire internet culture never would have been birthed. But instead, you didn't. Because you're a bunch of snooty fucks smelling your own farts. at this time period. And I know the Academy's changed, and it's gotten better, and they changed their rules, and that's great. The rules changed because of one movie, and it's called The Dark Knight.
Somewhat, yeah, sure. I'd agree somewhat. The other nominees in Best Director, other than Danny Boyle, Stephen Daldry for The Reader, David Fincher, Ron Howard, and Gus Van Sant. So,
all good directors.
Yeah, they're all, and I mean, I would easily take out 2 of those to put in Christopher Nolan. So it's like, it is kind of obvious when you look back on it.
It very much just feels like Batman's not a real movie, so we're not going to talk about it. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It doesn't matter. Like, the thing is this, if you go back and look at some of the Oscar winners, you're like, what's interesting about half that shit? But they make something out of something people don't expect, and it becomes great, and it deserves its win. I'm not shitting on any other subject material. You can't say it's bullshit they won't acknowledge this subject material and then shit on other subject material, right? It's just more so like, it very much just feels like, this is this, it has its own place, we don't go to that place, and it's wrong. Just straight up.
At times, yeah. I'd agree at times.
Fucking ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous.
That was the only change I had in terms of those 6 categories. I had a couple shout-outs I wanted to make. There's one obvious one that I think I would make. Dev Patel, Slumdog Millionaire.
You're such a Dev Patel fan.
That's my boy.
Is it all because of Slumdog Millionaire?
Pretty much. Well, I actually do like him in like everything I've seen him in.
Here's the thing, Green Knight, weird fucking movie. I'm not sure if it's good. It's a movie. It's a movie. He's very good in that movie.
And I really liked the movie he directed and starred in, Monkey Man. He was good in that. I'm a huge fan of his. Even that cheesy ass movie, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel or whatever.
Oh God,
I like him in that. And then
I feel like Dev Patel's is your Michael Keaton, where you're just like, love him, him, don't care, love him.
And then Colin Farrell in Bruges is the other acting shout out.
Never seen it. I need to.
It's really fun.
It's on that perpetual list of one of these days.
Yeah, it's really fun. He actually won the Golden Globe for comedy actor.
Really?
Which I didn't know. It's really surprised me because I was like, hey, that's cool. I didn't know he got any recognition.
Well, he's probably about to win an Emmy or get at least nominated for an Emmy, so.
Good. At least he gets something.
The Penguin series, so good. It is so good. It is so much better.
Underrated forever.
It's so much better than it has any business to be. It's so much better than anyone would expect. Fucking Christ, is that series good. I still haven't caught up on all the last episodes, but the first 4 episodes, you just go, holy shit, this series is good.
So, jump into Best Picture. Any changes?
Do I need to say it?
Other than Dark Knight?
What are the nominees again? Slumdog Millionaire.
So you got Slumdog Millionaire as the winner. Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Frost Nixon, Milk, and The Reader.
I don't know who deserves to get taken out for The Dark Knight. One of them does.
I have 2 changes here. I took out Frost Nixon and I took out Milk. Milk, I actually think Sean Penn completely deserves the Oscar for that movie. He's great. And in his speech, I don't really like Sean Penn all that much, but he actually really made me laugh because he made a good joke about how he's at least self-aware of how unlikable he is. Because he's like, what did he say? He said,
he's got a real Bono about him, where Sean Penn is always trying to do like really legitimately really good things. Sean Penn legitimately does fight for really cool things, but it just feels like the South Park episode where people are just sniffing their own farts constantly.
Yeah, no, he said, I do know how hard I make it to appreciate it. So he's at least self-aware about it.
Yeah, it's just, God, he's unlikable sometimes, man. Like, God damn.
Yeah, Milk as a movie, though, is fine. Frost Nixon is, like, completely forgettable to me. So, yeah, I would have put Dark Knight as the Best Picture winner. And then WALL-E, Best Picture nominee.
So you think Best Picture should be The Dark Knight? What you just said. Okay. All right. All of my anger's now gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue against it.
It's just what that movie accomplishes, man. And not even like, the money and the audiences. Just what is accomplished in that movie with the scope, the IMAX filming, some of the stuff that's done that's just so different for the time.
The Oscars always just get one or two movies that just pick up steam, like in the last few months of the year, and just carry it throughout that voting process.
Oh, I was legitimately frightened last year with Oppenheimer that some bullshit movie that clearly wasn't as good as Oppenheimer was just going to pick up steam because it was just some... Again, it's belittling to something that's probably very good. It just always feels like some bullshit movie that comes out in late November, early December. Yeah. And it's a very small, tight, personal story that will never wow audiences, that will never make an impact other than Oscar season. It's just going to come in, it's going to have a good performance that's going to capture people's attention, and it's just going to steamroll through an award season when it doesn't have the impact, it doesn't actually have it doesn't really have the gravitas to deserve what it's getting. That's just what the Oscars and award season feels like so many times. And I was so concerned where I literally just went, if Christopher Nolan and Oppenheimer does not win, this is literally like, somehow we always do it. There's famous signs in pro wrestling in certain events where it's like, there's one from ECW One Night Stand, and it's a total like hardcore crowd that loves just like blood and guts. And John Cena's on the card, and there's literally a sign in the stand hanging from the rafters that says, "If Cena wins, we riot." That's what I felt like with Oppenheimer. I was like, if Oppenheimer loses, the internet will riot. Like the internet will burn this to the ground.
You can look forward to an argument on that when that year comes.
Oh, can't wait. Oppenheimer's so good, dude. Oppenheimer's so good.
But don't worry, it's not... My winner is not one of the nominees.
Okay. Obviously, it's Barbie then. So, be great.
You'll be surprised.
So, I think it's easy to say your favorite movie from 2008 is probably Slumdog Millionaire.
WALL-E, easy.
I will say, WALL-E deserves more credit. Does it to make something so abstract that personable is actually a true achievement. I think it deserves. I will say, I was so distracted by the Dark Knight that I did not give enough credit.
The first half of that movie is a silent movie, pretty much.
WALL-E does not get enough credit for some of the stuff it does in it. I don't think it's the best Pixar movie, even of the era, but I think it's damn good.
Yes, it is.
I can't wait until one day you I want to start a new series with you where it's essentially just PowerPoint. And you're just going through slides like a millennial PowerPoint night. And it's just, this is why this is the best. Or it's just you stack ranking stuff and just be like, this is why this is the best. Just because of your opinions on stuff. WALL-E deserves more credit in the Best Picture category as well. I think if I were going to lift two out based on my knowledge of them, definitely Milk feels like it's in because of performance, not because of the movie. And Frost Nixon feels like the one that you kind of... Frost Nixon
Milk is very... Milk won a lot because of... it's very timely.
Yes. Yes, I do know that.
Because it was like... It's in that time where it's like, okay, we're finally accepting of gay people, stuff like that. So it was a timely movie.
It feels a little bit like Milk walks through the door that Brokeback Mountain kicks down.
Pretty much.
It feels like it feels like Brokeback Mountain was the first of its kind, so it just got unnecessarily shit on because it's a gay movie. And you're like, shut up.
Yeah.
And then because we're finally past that first initial phase of stupidity, Milk can kind of go like, I'm great, guys. And you're like, yeah, I mean, yes, you are. You're just not that great. You're good.
Yeah. And
you're not that good.
Milk is definitely nowhere near as good as Brokeback Mountain. So
it's just more so Frost Nixon, especially at the time, definitely felt like the one that was in there that you're like, you serious? You're really trying to tell me?
It's completely forgettable. I've seen it. I think I've seen it twice, and I barely remember.
And I like all the actors in it. I really like Lewis. I think Frank Langella's great. I like them both.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those where I just went, you serious right now? You're trying to tell me that this is one of the 5 best movies of the year, and the heaviest hitter of them all is just sitting there, just going, fuck you guys. Okay. Go sniff more of your own farts, idiots.
Yeah.
2008. Take a wild guess what my favorite movie is.
Yeah, I wonder.
Obviously, it's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So, actually, this is another series I wanted to do, another episode, and I only bring it up to finish this episode. This is the longest fucking episode I think we've ever done. But I don't know because I recorded an interview in between sessions of the show, so I don't know. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is one of the 5 most important movies of my lifetime. It's not because it's one of the best or most important. It's one of the most important because it's the first time I left a theater just utterly disappointed. The first time I just went, wait, you can go to the theater and not enjoy your experience?
Yeah.
It's the first time I ever just got like kicked in the nuts and just went.
I think I was still riding high after.
No, the thing is, I went and I was like, well, I like it. I don't love it. And I would love to do a show on some of those. Like, what does it actually mean to do? Yeah, also Step Brothers always deserves a nod in my mind. Step Brothers is great.
Oh, yeah, great movie.
And movie that never gets talked about enough. I think it's one of I think it's one of Kevin Smith's best. Because it actually has the most appeal to a wide range of audience. Zack and Miri Make a Porno is actually really fun, good comedy. Really fun movie. Highly recommend. And I think it's the best use of classic Seth Rogen. Actually. I think it's the best use. I think it's the best use of I'm Seth Rogen. I think it's best used by Kevin Smith and Zack and Miri.
I would agree.
Because he kind of gets away from that in Superbad. Because he's kind of actually finally playing a character. But I think it's great in Zack and Miri. So I always give those. But that is going to do it for this very, very, very long-ass episode that I know I'm going to have to do so much editing on. But it's going to be fun. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And if you're catching this in when we're doing yearly breakdowns, where it's just a single year that we're talking about, more power to you because you didn't have as long of a show. We're going to be back with some more stuff next week. For Dylan Davies, I am Evan Davies. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace, love, and hugs to you all. Goodbye!